Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello and welcome to the Rational League, people, with the guys. And we have a new addition, of course, to the lineup, to the panel today. Welcome, everybody, to Footy Judge Mo. Arsenal and Man City are unstoppable. They say this is the best title race ever. They say that. They literally said that already. And a lot of people...
You said that. I didn't say that.
I didn't. Go check it out. I think Morrison said that about the title race. They said it's three-way title race. It's very good. It's amazing.
It's not the three-way title race, though.
They literally said that. Well, if you call last season title race a title race, now this is a three-way title race because you're still mathematically until last week you were in it. So you can say that.
But last season
was last season a title race or it wasn't a title race?
Last season wasn't a title race, no?
It wasn't. So Arsenal weren't in a title race last season.
No, because the title race didn't start until the last month of the season. By that point, Arsenal fucked it.
All right, then. All right, okay. It's not me that said it. It's Tom. So you didn't okay. If you didn't think the Arsenal were in a title race last season, hold on.
I just want to know who said this is the best one.
You can just go check it. But remember, I read a lot of news, so I'm not gonna remember the names.
Let me go find which mad bastard said this.
Why not? This is one of the best title races ever.
There was one point where it was building up to what could have been one of the best title races.
Until about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks, just 2 weeks ago. Game week 34.
Until a month ago.
Game week 34.
Yeah.
34. Was that
but
when
the conversation, to be honest with you, is this is actually not a great title race. Do you know why it's not a great title race?
I'm getting whiplash here. Is this the best title race ever or not a good one?
I don't think it's the best. I said people say. I never said it's my opinion.
Right.
But of course, you have selective hearing. I never said it's my opinion. I never said that.
So
go back to the VAR and recheck it. I never said that.
So you think it's been a bad title
actually
race?
a cringy title race. Do you know why? Because both teams are actually winning. And I don't think it's exciting. If teams drop, if it keeps changing where Arsenal win, Man City lose, Arsenal lose, Man City win, that's a good title. But both Man City haven't lost a game in about 30 games or something like that since December, bro. And Arsenal won 16, drew 1 or something. If I'm not lost 1 against Aston Villa. Right? Am I mistaken here? 16.
15 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss.
So it's
I actually think a good title race is not when both teams end up in the 90s. Because they're winning every game.
No. So there's a difference. A good title race is where both teams are pretty much faultless and get 90s, high 90s and win loads of games.
I don't think that's the good one.
An exciting title race is what you want, which is all teams stumbling over each other and not really wanting to win the title. This has been a good title race. Not the best, but it's been a good title race.
Okay, so now you actually just said it the right way. It's not as exciting because we're waiting for Man City to slip and they win 5 or 4. How's that good? Or you're waiting for Arsenal, like every Arsenal fan, the majority of Arsenal fans, when Dan Potts sit on my show and say, I'm expecting 3 or 4, Dan Potts, who isn't a very positive, optimistic fan, I think that means both teams are just going to win every game. Which is, I don't think that's so exciting, as you said. So you put it the right word. It's not as exciting as we think it is.
Yeah.
It's not.
No,
you need to watch relegation battles more.
The relegation even finished. It's done.
Yeah,
it's over.
True.
It's high quality, but not high entertainment.
So
because it does.
Does anybody agree with Mark Gorbach? He said that the league is like when the 3 relegation teams. Is it Mark Gorbach who said the 3 relegation the 3 teams went up, went down, and Man City are about to do 4-peat? That's not exciting at all.
There are points that I agree with and points that I don't agree with. I think the relegation issue is an issue in terms of this is by far the lowest points total you've ever needed to survive in the Premier League. And if you look at like Burnley being Centurions in the Championship last year, coming up to the Premier League and just getting smacked, that's a problem. I do think there are other parts that are exciting. Like I think the battle for Europe is exciting. And it will be even more exciting next season. And even to an extent, like City winning the 4-peat in itself isn't a problem. In the same way that United winning however many titles they did when they seem to win it every year. That wasn't a problem in itself, as long as each individual title race is exciting. The issue with City is that it doesn't feel like we're getting really exciting title races. because they feel inevitable.
Going to the last day of the season, though. That's pretty
Can
good.
we ask the people to, guys, can we, before we go on this absolutely
season
off,
thing now.
off the rails conversation, can we get the likes up to 100 likes, people? And if you're watching this, like, guys, stop what you're doing now and hit the like button. And if you're watching this in the replay, like the video before you go on. And we welcome Dan, of course. We haven't welcomed you to the National League. Welcome, Dan.
Hello.
As you see, a Chelsea fan. Late to his debut, as Nobin said. He was the latest one to show up on the stream. That's why we were late. So, fantastic. Great. Go ahead, Nobin.
Huh?
Go ahead. You were saying something.
No, I'm chilling.
I was just saying that it's the falsest last day title race ever, though, because City are not going to lose at home to West Ham with fuck all to play for.
We've got to play Spurs tomorrow.
Oh,
Away.
yeah. Spurs side who've already done their farewell fucking walk around the pitch, and probably their own fans will celebrate City goals more than their own.
Yeah, but the players aren't the fans, are they?
And the play. So basically,
Romero doesn't care about that. They want to get Champions League, which is entirely possible, to be fair.
Liverpool have to win tonight. For this whole thing to stay alive until at least until tomorrow. Liverpool have to win tonight. If Spurs are out of Champions League contention by the time they play tomorrow,
come on, Villa.
There's no point. There's no point. But
always loved Unai Emery.
What happens if we draw?
There's still a chance.
Well, Spurs would need a 10-goal difference swing or something crazy.
Yeah, and they'd obviously have to beat us. Well, they've got to. I think they've got to beat us anyway. To be fair,
they'd have to beat you and win on the final day and accumulate a 10-goal advantage over Villa.
Yeah,
is the game today at the Villa Park? Huh?
Yes.
Yes, today it is. Yeah. I'd be surprised if he won today. I'm expecting them to play a bunch of like rotation pieces, you know.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you could, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Like I'm expecting to see like Bajcetic get a start. Elliot will start again. Quantz will start again. Maybe Simicast gets a game. Maybe fucking I don't know. Nunes starts instead of Diaz or something. Like I'm not expecting a strong side tonight.
See, I think you will, only based on what Klopp said after your last game, where he was he said he was targeting like your 5th best ever total or something. He was like he still had targets in his mind about achieving a whatever.
Yeah,
for Liverpool's
but
final season.
really he was only saying that because you were still technically in the race. Right now, I generally don't think he really gives that much of a shit because we can only finish 3rd. We can't be overtaken and we can't overtake anyone. So we can only finish 3rd. There's really not a point to stressing out. So I see him playing a bunch of the rotation pieces or the kids who are going to play a part in the future tonight. I'm not expecting to see the full strength Liverpool side that's going to blow a team away. So Aston Villa might get the job done and then it's set up for City to have a nice win at Tottenham. But even if we were to beat Villa, I don't think Tottenham are all of a sudden just going to turn around and go, City's ours for the taking now. When Tottenham done City in the past, it was because they were rock solid defensively and good on the counter. This Tottenham side is open defensively and a bit shit on the counter. It's like the antithesis of what was successful against Man City. And with like Basuma's now out as well, who's like one of their only good midfielders. Richarlison's out, so they've got no striker. I just don't see where this goal against a City defense that knows they just need to win to get over the line is going to come from.
Yeah,
you never know, though, do you? You never know. Like we battered them in the FA Cup game, but it required like a last minute.
Look at Nobbins trying to be all humble here. Oh, well, you never know. I don't know.
No, yeah. I'll repeat. I've said many times we've missed more penalties at that ground than scored goals. Like, we still haven't registered a Premier League goal at that ground. Again, we scored in the FA Cup, but it was via a corner, and we don't tend to score from directly from corners. So that was like a very rare thing to happen. It's not going to be as easy as people are making out, where it's going to be like, City will just roll them over 3-0 in the first half or whatever. Then that's very optimistic thinking.
I think Rory has to prepare for the horrible idea of City drawing with Tottenham and then absolutely snotting West Ham on the final day to win on goal difference.
But if they, I mean, it's possible, I suppose. They'd have to beat us.
They need to win by 3 more goals than you
No, but I think it's 4 because if they
It
end
is,
up tying with us
yeah.
on goal difference, we beat them on head to head.
No,
Yes,
it goes
exactly.
to goals. It goes to goals scored first,
Oh yeah, good point.
and City
Yeah,
have more goals scored.
Yeah, it's goal scored in this league. Yeah, that is correct. To be fair.
In that case,
So it goes to head after that. But
that's mental.
For it to get to that point, it
That
means that
encourages scoring goals. Winning games is more valuable than not losing them.
It encourages attacking play.
Yeah, big up.
None of this Mikel Arteta go to the Etihad and have a snooze fest game. It encourages free flowing attack.
It doesn't encourage beating your opposition, your title rivals. But it's not. Look, if it comes down to that, it comes down to that. But it's not going to because Spurs are going to get smacked. And then, I mean,
so.
David Moyes said that you'd beat their David Moyes said your under 14s would beat West Ham. So clearly, he's going into the West Ham City game with a lot of confidence. Really feels like he's going to get something out of that game.
It's so fun, isn't it, Rory, watching every single team come out with all this shit before they play City.
They just roll
I had
over.
to do it for like 3 separate years. Just watching teams go, we can't. It was fucking 1 year. Mourinho said the 3 best teams in the league: Man City, Liverpool, and Man City B.
Yeah,
like the respect and shit they have from all the other managers in this league is demoralising to hear when he's trying to go up against them.
Yeah. But there we go.
Anyway, listen. Okay, so good segue to Liverpool then. Before we go on to Arsenal and Gvardiol and all the stuff, big up everybody that is here, of course. Anthony Gordon to Liverpool is everywhere. If you type Liverpool on Google, I'm not lying, just go everyone in the chat and type Gordon. Anthony Gordon, every report is saying that Liverpool are targeting Gordon. Is it right? Is it wrong? Tom thinks it's wrong. It is news. And we are not in the know to know if he's going or not. But the point is this what Liverpool want? Someone like Gordon?
No, Anthony Gordon is never happening. I would bet my house on that.
But Mo said someone like.
Like is that like HUSAM when like I'm gonna shave my head if Jude doesn't go into Liverpool? Is that
yes?
One
If Anthony Gordon joins Liverpool for 100 million quid this summer, I will do a stream in like a field. I'll be homeless. How about that? Because it's not happening.
No. We want you to shave your head. We want you to.
I'm not shaving my head. I'm not. An
okay.
idiot like
if you're really,
I'm not an idiot like
HUSAM.
I'm not an idiot like HUSAM who bet on Jude Bellingham choosing Liverpool over Real Madrid. I'm smart and I've said I'll go stream in a field full of cow shit if Liverpool buy Anthony Gordon for 100 million, because that would be our record transfer for a former Evertonian. It's not going to happen. Whether it's the type of player we need, maybe he's had a good season, but I like the Elise is someone I prefer more. I could see the club going for the Somerville.
You think Elise is better than Anthony Gordon?
Yes.
With a certain.
By the way, a lot of Newcastle fans think that Anthony Gordon should be in a shot for Young Player of the Season and stuff.
He's had
like
a good
this.
year. Anthony Gordon's had a good year, 100%.
I think that a lot of people
or is he Liverpool, by the way?
He is a Liverpool fan, and he wasn't on academy until like 11. Then we released him. Then he just went to Everton and came up through there. Right. I think him and his family are Liverpool fans, but like, it's not going to happen because that would make him our record transfer. And the only way that would ever happen is if every other option was exhausted and we'd sold 2 forwards. It's not the type of move we'd make, and that's even if Newcastle would sell, because they've got no need to sell. They don't need the money, do they? It's not like they're struggling financially. So it's not going to happen. There's other names that I'd much prefer for us to go for. Like, even if you want to just shop in England, Elise, I think, is a better option.
But a different type of player to Gordon, no?
Yeah, he's a different type of player, but I don't necessarily think we need that Gordon type with the way that the attack is shaped up. If it was still how it used to be, where we had a false 9, then yeah, a Gordon type who was a little bit more dynamic and front-footed would probably be the way you want to go. But with the way we've got now, where we've got a striker, no matter how shit he is, we've got a striker. So the need for this dynamic winger who drives into the space, not necessarily. We need more a creator type of winger. So that's where you want your Elise's. Again, like I've always said, if his hamstrings weren't made of Swiss cheese, Pedro Neto would be a shoo-in for this Liverpool team, but he can't stay fit. Crescencio Somerville from Leeds. That's the type of move that Liverpool have made in years gone by. Buy someone from the Championship who's had a good year, and then see if they can hack it in the Prem. There's players in other leagues who we can look at. It's just, I think that if we were to draw up a shortlist, there was way too many players ahead of Anthony Gordon, and that's even just disregarding the whole debacle around used to be Everton and this, that, and the other. Like, Gordon's not happening. He's going to stay at Newcastle.
Also, if Newcastle, because there's been obviously some reports that Newcastle might have to sell one big player this summer, but if they're looking at it, like, you know, if they could sell Bruno G to Man City, for example, I feel like they'd rather do that than, like, I feel like Newcastle will look at Liverpool next season as someone that they might be genuinely rivaling for the Champions League spots, whereas they'd rather sell to City, who they're not really going to compete with next season. So it would be a bizarre transfer on pretty much every level.
Yeah, I mean, they've got other names.
Newcastle battling Liverpool is a crazy statement, to be honest. Like,
well, they'll expect to be next season.
Yeah, with the amount they spend and the makeup of a squad that they've got, it's a good squad. And it all depends on how our new manager settles in. But I like I said, Gordon, for me, he's had a good year. He's not. I don't think I'd certainly have a lot of other wingers ahead of him, especially just domestically. Not even considering all these other leagues around the world. Like I'm a big fan of Brian and Mbeumo.
Would you rather
as well.
Anthony Gordon or Mohamed Kudus?
Kudus.
Don't you think that Gordon had a better season?
Numbers wise, yeah.
So why would you want Mohamed Kudus?
I think Kudus is a better player.
Oh,
I'd agree with that. Kudus was exceptional against Chelsea, actually, when I watched him the other day. And I think there's a bit more of a player in there than there is in Gordon.
I mean, I watched him when he came to us, when he came and played against us last year with Ajax. He was the best Ajax player on the pitch. So with Kudus, there's a big sort of sheet of work. This is like Gordon's first real good year. Don't get me wrong, it's been a good year, but it's his first like year where you say, okay, he's performing at a good level. With Kudus, we've got a number of years at Ajax and now this year at West Ham.
Okay.
A West Ham team that's worse than Newcastle, and Kudus has still performed pretty well in it, whilst playing out of position and adapting to a new league and stuff. He's a better player. I think, like, I've pulled up the Premier League table here. Bottom three, I wouldn't take anyone from in terms of wingers better. Forest, no. Brentford, I like Mbeumo. Everton and Fulham, probably not. Wolves, Neto, and, you know, if we had to buy another attack from there, like, I like Mateus Cunha for the forward there. I think he's a real good talent. Crystal Palace's Eze and Elise. You know, there's better, cheaper options than Gordon. That's the way we look at it. And with this, with the guys coming back in upstairs who use all these data analytics and are very frivolous with the Moneyball stuff, a Gordon for 100 million isn't the type of move they make. They only break the bank when it's a game changer. Anthony Gordon's not on the level of Van Dijk for this team. Anthony Gordon's not going to have the impact that a Virgil van Dijk did on
the
this
market
team.
has changed. That's the point. The market, like 100 million now, is completely different. If Caicedo and Declan Rice and Gvardiol and all these guys are at these prices, it's all about the English tax. There is more to it than just you buying Van Dijk from Southampton or Salah from Roma, or, you know what I mean, or Mane, or even Man City when they bought Diaz from. It's different now. The market is different. The Premier League is being looked at differently. All the player prices went up. So it's not only that factor of like, yeah, it's not Van Dijk, it's not this. It's just completely different.
I mean, if I look at the Premier League's record transfers in, so only
Jack Grealish was 100 million. So just putting this out.
Yeah,
That's a treble winner right there.
So, what's 100? Because I'm on transfer market. I'm just going to assume 117.5 is 100 million because of conversion rates. That would make Anthony Gordon the fourth most expensive player of all time to move to the Premier League behind Enzo, Grealish, Rice, and Caicedo. Anthony Gordon, for as good as he is not on that level. And a club like Liverpool with massive holes to fill this summer in defence and in midfield should not be splurging 100 million quid on Anthony Gordon.
It's pretty reactionary and recency biased as well. Like, literally last summer, people were laughing at the fact that Gordon had gone for, what did he go for? 50?
I am.
I think so, yeah.
I said,
I mean,
he's an over average
second
player.
half of last year for Newcastle, he played 16 games and got 1 goal and no assists, and everyone's going, "Oh, Newcastle wasted the money there." Like, it's too big of a risk
There's
for a club that
you
has
can use
bigger
your
problems.
resources a lot better. Like if we're doing the Gordon Kudus example comparison, I imagine not only would Kudus be cheaper, but also it's probably no disrespect to West Ham, but it's going to be easier to convince a player to leave West Ham than it is to leave Newcastle, because there's a very exciting project going on at Newcastle, and there is a clear direction in respect of they're wanting to become, they want to be in the Champions League every season. They want to be title contenders, etc. There's a lot of ambition there. There's obviously a lot of resources to support that. So players will know, if I stay here, we might be in like a title challenging side in a few years. Can you say the same of West Ham? I don't think it's unfair to say that you can't. So it's probably easier to convince Kudus to leave West Ham. They would be Gordon Newcastle.
It's not like as well that Anthony Gordon's this 20-year-old with just this massive upside. He's the same age as Kudus. He's the same. I'm pretty sure like Neto's only 1 year older. Like it's not like he's got age on his side to the point where you justify it. It's there's too much there, and the price point is too big. And with the amount of work that I feel Liverpool has to do this summer in terms of buying a centre back, a left back, a DM, and at least 2 attackers, provided Diaz moves on, which he should do. There's not the room or the justification for paying that much for Gordon. Even if I had to go and buy a Newcastle attacker, I'd go buy Isak and then just force Joss out on the left. Like,
what if they only have Gordon for sale?
Well, then whichever club plays 100 billion quid for him, best hope he's fucking good, because it's not going to be us.
Anyway, moving on from this, before we go on to Man City and Arsenal, I wanted to speak a little bit about Pochettino and Chelsea, since we have Dan here with us. Now, a lot of fans now are turning into, let's give Pochettino another year and all this stuff. And I know where you stand on it, Dan. A lot of people say, he was 11th. I actually think, this is my personal opinion, that he deserves another year with the injuries coming back and the way you play, especially that he's on course to get like 6 or 7. And I don't think there is a better option out there for you, unless you're going to go and get a Hansi Flick or something like that. And it doesn't look like you're going to get someone like that.
Yeah, I definitely hear it now. Obviously, there's been a slight upturn. I feel like it's on, people said like the 2.5 games that Bodie spoke about and things like that. The game against Forest, look, he turned it round. He proved that injuries have obviously hindered him in terms of what he can bring off the bench this season, or players that he's had available to him. But the first 60, 65 minutes against Forest, Chelsea weren't that good, and it felt like we were watching a performance from earlier on in the season. I feel like there's been times when we've cost ourselves results because of Pochettino's actions, failure to manage a game correctly. And I've been disappointed with that. But ultimately, if he gets us European football, whether that's Conference League or Europa League, I think that's acceptable. I don't think it's the standard that Chelsea should be looking to achieve, especially after the amount of money that they've spent. And I can hear that he'd be given time next season. I actually think to say another year is probably a push too far. I think it's probably judge how he does in early Europe if he gets it, and probably the first sort of 10 to 15 games of the Premier League, and sort of see where he's at coming up towards January, because I always believe replacing a manager after January can be tricky because they don't have time to bring players in and things like that. So, yeah, I think he earns it if he finishes in a good place in terms of getting Europe, preferably Europa League. I still don't think Pochettino is the standard of manager Chelsea should be looking at if they wish to maintain the standards that they previously had, to be honest with you.
Listen, I actually think Pochettino hasn't done a bad job. Yes, in the beginning of the season, I said he should get sacked. When you sit 11th and a big team, you should be sacked right away, no context and everything. But he proved that he can turn it around a little bit, to be honest. And he did, as you said. And I believe with the right signings this season, I think you can actually get somewhere close to the top 4. It's just you need the right signings. But are the board going the right way? When I hear the first thing is that they signed a 16 years old, spent 30 million. And himself doesn't look like he's happy with the signings, with the direction the club is going at for Chelsea, to be honest. And I'm looking at it, he called out, I actually believe he might leave. Does anybody think that he actually might leave?
If he's not back, I think he might. The fact
he might quit.
When he spoke about in the press conference, right, he mentioned that maybe my coach and staff aren't happy with how things are, we could leave. I kind of took it as a bit of a pinch of salt, and he was just like flipping the situation on his head, that it's always one way. It's always if the manager's going to get sacked, but what if the manager and his staff aren't happy? the fact he did a second interview with the can't think of his surname, but Gary from Sky Sports News, who he's got quite a good relationship with. I then thought there was a bit of substance to what he actually said. I thought there was definitely maybe an issue here, that something somewhere has upset Pochettino. More than likely, it's come from the lack of communication that he's reportedly said that has come from Todd Bowley and Clearlake Capital and whoever's sort of at the top of Chelsea have disappeared from his contact list for the last 2 months. And probably the fact that he's requested a couple of players and not quite got that. I think that was why Cassidy had to come back in January, because Pochettino was after a taller, more physical centre midfielder, and he wasn't backed in that department. Understandably, you can see why, because the money that's been assembled on this Chelsea squad is excessive, and actually adding more people into this squad is probably not the best idea until some players are let go and prove their fitness. So, look, I can see why he might be upset, and if he was to leave, it wouldn't surprise me, but it would raise massive concerns for me in the direction of Chelsea Football Club and what the board's doing, obviously, because you don't see a manager leave their position because of the financial sacrifice that they'd be making.
Clear Lake seems to live in cuckoo land. That's what Clear Lake seems to live in. They want this manager that doesn't exist, who plays this dead nice possession-oriented style of football, but is the best in the world at developing these young players and doesn't need experience in his squad and won't have bad spells of form. And they want the perfect manager, which doesn't exist.
I think
hire
they have
Pochettino.
a lack of understanding towards like European sports and football in particular.
Yeah,
I think that potentially in America and in American sports, there's that sort of person's more available because they have like a split between general managers. They have coaches in different areas of the sport. I think in football that isn't quite there yet, and I think that's something they're sort of struggling to understand. And I'm not sure how much of a grip they've got on football knowledge now as they did when they took over. They might be pretty fast learners because you don't raise the kind of funds that they have and generate the income that they've done for themselves if you don't learn quickly. So that's the only thing I'd say. The fact they didn't spend in January, unless it's through pure worry of not making certain requirements financially, they might be turning a corner. But we can't really comment on that until we see what happens.
I just look at the way they appointed Pochettino was hired for me on the basis that he's got a reputation of developing young players. But Pochettino as a manager who plays a very physical style of football, which involves a lot of covering ground. And it, as much as there really are elements where it is technically sound and there are nice moves and everything, it's mainly focused on high intensity pressing, counter-attacks, a lot of full speed. That Pochettino wouldn't mind if he had less possession in the game, as long as his team worked hard and he got the result sort of thing. But then clearly by players that don't suit that style of football, like Enzo. I mean, don't you know, Enzo came in before that, but Enzo, for me, doesn't really suit the full-blown nature of what a Pochettino midfield is. That's why you see a lot more of Gallagher.
It strengthens your argument that they aren't sure of their ideas regarding football. I think they signed so many players that fit in so many different types of systems that it's actually just confused the matter even more. So I think Potter had so many players available and wasn't sure what to do with them. I then think Pochettino has the same issue. And I think that's why it's actually taken Pochettino so long, because I don't think he's the most tactically adept manager or he's able to figure out a plan quickly, because we've not seen that. It takes him a long time to rectify his mistakes, and it's arguably taken him 30 games and a lot of injuries and his hand being forced to potentially get the best out of this Chelsea squad. And I think that actually stems from the fact that he's been given a squad of players that just, if you look at it on paper, it doesn't really make sense as to what style of football that squad should be playing. And I think that just strengthens your argument more that that Clearlake Capital came in with a lot of money and not a lot of idea. And the fact that Todd Bowley appointed himself as sporting director that early on with the experience that he had in sport is absolutely crazy. And yeah, your argument's spot on there, I think.
And the worry as well. Yeah, you go, Rory. You are.
It just must be incredibly frustrating for Pochettino when it's like, okay, so he's being judged on results like in the fairly immediate term, which fine, every manager is. But if he's just like, okay, I get that I've got a young squad, I get I need to develop them, but I could really do with just like this one player to help in terms of, I don't know who that player is or if that player exists, but in terms of like a player that he knows would work in the system he wants to play. And he's like, okay, so I need this player. And they're like, well, we could get you that player, but here's a 16-year-old winger that's one for the future that we might probably end up flipping for a profit. And he's like, okay, great. So now I've got another right winger to add to Cole Palmer, Madueke, Amari Hutchinson, Kendry Paez, That's another one. It's like, you know, and that's going to be a player that either another manager in the future will benefit from or will just be flit for profit. And he's not even seeing the rewards of that profit because he still can't buy the players that he wants. So I can understand why he then sits there, takes abuse and abuse and abuse for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it's like, well, you know, I'm not really being given the tools to do the job right here and right now. So if you're not going to give me the tools to do
he
it
accepted
now,
it, Rory. He accepted it in the beginning. He accepted it. That's what people. I actually think people fail like to say that. Like the guy came in, the transfers already happened, right? If I'm not mistaken, most of the transfers, most of the decisions, they already chased Caicedo. They already knew that they weren't going to get this guy. They already knew that they're going to get this guy. He accepted that. Did he expect them to spend that much money and then get him the players he wants? I thought when he sat with them, he accepted that these are the transfers he's getting. But I think because the results aren't going his way and because of the injuries, now he's starting to complain. Now it's starting to surface that, well, I needed this and that. But when you got the job, you knew what you're walking into. You knew that you're getting this young squad. You knew that you're getting all these massive transfers with a lot of pressure on their shoulder. And they're all young without experience. You knew that, right? The injuries, yes, you cannot predict, but you cannot expect a club to spend that much money and then the injuries happen and then for them to spend again. Chelsea actually are in a big hole now. Did you guys see the report today?
No,
not?
but you know what?
Go ahead.
What Poch can expect is a little bit of job security then, because if you buy all these young players and your squad is, as a lot of Chelsea fans and media like to push, one of the youngest average age in the Premier League, it lacks experience and it's going to need time to become what it should be. If you want to harp on about potential, you've got to live and die by potential.
What do you mean job security?
So all this news.
Why? Because no official statement has come out and said he's under pressure, Tom. Has anybody said from the Bowley group that he's under pressure? Nobody. He's the one who said. You guys keep asking.
There's been plenty of reports throughout the season that Poch is under consideration, and the whole thing is there's this big meeting at the end of the season where Clear Lake will decide whether they want to go on with him, or he will decide whether he wants to go on with them. It all seems very standoffish. What he needs is a guarantee that he's going to get to see out this project that they've brought him in for, because what Chelsea cannot afford to do with this, in my opinion, flawed transfer model is constantly cycle through managers like they used to do when they had world-class players. Young players need one ideology to grow into and one style of play to develop into. They can't go through about 5 different managers who all want to play different ways and might want to play them in different positions and might see different skills for them, because what you're going to do then is ultimately limit their potential because they're going to spread it across multiple roles and multiple facets. That's not the smart thing to do. The smart thing to do is you've given Pochettino the job based on his quality and his track record with youth. So let him see it through. You gave him a 2-year deal. He at least deserves the 2 years. At the end of that, you can reassess because he will have had 2 years of working with the players then, and you'll have more of a mindset and more of a view on what players are successful, what players aren't successful. You'll have more of an understanding of how the sport works, and you can then start afresh at that point. If they go now, they will have been through 4 managers in 2 years.
But can I ask you something to check? Is that what the notion you're saying on paper looks absolutely fantastic and it looks like the right thing to do, right? But what about the circumstances? What about if Pochettino didn't come 7th? What if Pochettino became 9th? Okay, but in the middle of the season, okay, Tom, but in the middle of the season, he was always 11th or 10th. That do you think that is okay for you? If he was always 10th or 11th, that's okay?
But that is partly a result of the squad. As you can see, the moment he started to get players performing at a level, the moment that some of the players have matured to what Chelsea is, the moment some of the players have come back from injury, the moment some of the players have just grown a pair of fucking bollocks about themselves, these young players that have cost a lot of money and decided to start pulling their fucking finger out and performing, all of a sudden, Chelsea started to win games and climb up the table.
By the way, he hasn't got a lot of players from only Madueke is the one who actually just to this notion that when he got players back from injuries, actually the only player that changed the starting lineup is Madueke. Actually, Chalobah is playing right back where he shouldn't. Malo Gusto just came back. So basically, this notion that actually he got players back from injury, it's the same. Modric has been fit the majority of the season. Jackson, Palmer, Caicedo, Thiago Silva, right, who a lot of Chelsea fans didn't want to start. Badiashile, who's a game good, a game bad. Cucurella, who is not a greatest left back in the world. Petrovic is the same goalkeeper. This notion
but
that he
then
got players back, and
you're
Kunku still doesn't
changing it.
start.
The moment Cucurella came back in, Pochettino was able to invert him, and all of a sudden that was a big tactical change that has really helped them out recently.
He could have inverted somebody else.
Who?
I'm not sure anyone
Like-
else in
like
Chelsea's
who?
team's capable of that. And you have to remember, Mo, you're mentioning a lot of names there, but actually, as you start getting further through, there's actually quite a lot of those names that have had injury problems this season. Badiashile's missed a lot of time. Cucurella's missed time through surgery as well. Petrovic obviously didn't start the season. Sanchez did, so he got injured. You spoke about Thiago Silva. He's had time on the sidelines as well this season. So I don't think there's people there that kind of fit that role that Cucurella has picked up in recent weeks. I think actually against Nottingham Forest, that role kind of got found out and Cucurella stepped away from
because
that.
he isn't a good player then. That's it. Because Cucurella is not.
No, he's a good player. He's just not necessarily suited for that role. He's a very good wide defender. He's just not necessarily the best inverted one. And that's not his fault.
We disagree. I actually think he's a bum. His footballing brain is shit. His absolutely decision making is absolutely terrible. Cucurella is absolutely.
Cucurella came through
this is
don't you?
My opinion is that every time I'm watching the guy cannot pass the ball. His decision making, he wants to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. He's so rash in decisions, right? And I think he's just now trying to defend in a Chelsea team and trying to show these tackles and all this stuff. I just don't think he's the future of left backs at Chelsea. He can't cross. He's not good at crossing. He's not good in passing. What is he good at for Chelsea Football Club? I don't know. I think
you say that like Chelsea have an abundance of left back options, though.
Okay, but that's why he. By the way, that's why he looks good now because they don't have a lot. Like I actually believe I know Chilwell is a bad defensively.
Chilwell's just a bad footballer. Chilwell's a bad footballer.
You think Cucurella is a better footballer? Okay, not footballer. He's a better left back than Cucurella is better left back than Chilwell.
Yeah. Cucurella's a better left back than Chilwell is.
Yeah,
I'd probably rather have Cucurella. Yeah,
I've got a Ukrainian.
Chilwell as a wing back, maybe. Chilwell maybe be better
maybe as a wing
back.
back. I think he's going forward better, in my opinion.
Yeah, Chile forwards is way better than
better.
Cucurella going forwards. I'd agree with that as well.
The thing about it is Cucurella, people just forget. Cucurella absolutely was shambolic defensively when he played for Chelsea before. His positioning was shit. He used to run into tackles without actually having to measure where the ball is going. Dan remembers this, and people said, you're not going forward good, and you're not even defensively good. What are you good at? What did we pay the money for?
So I think this is actually a massive point on Pochettino. It kind of comes back round a little bit, is that obviously I think, let's touch on Cucurella first. I think at Brighton, he was playing a style of football that Potter had instructed him to play. And we have to remember as well, Cucurella, when he was at Getafe, he was playing as a left winger, left mid. He wasn't ever a defender by trade. And ultimately, then I think he came to Chelsea in that style of football. Potter never really implemented that well, and I don't think a lot of players bought into it. I think that's why Cucurella struggled so much last season. And don't forget, he was literally about to leave on loan to Manchester United. Well, that's what the rumours were anyway. Yeah. And Pochettino played him at right back that night, and he had a fantastic game. And from that moment on, I think Cucurella has obviously grown in confidence, but I also think the relationship between him and Pochettino has been really strong. And I think there's a lot of improvement to his game. And we've seen this now with him playing this new inverted role. And we've seen it when he's been asked to do other things. As a player, his level's really been up this season. I think Chelsea fans are quite shocked at the difference between last season and this season. But what it does say is that actually, what was Pochettino brought in for? And if it is for young players and improving them, then you might argue that he's got a really strong case that he's excelled with his work this season, because there's at least 5 or 6 players that are multi-million-pound assets for this capital group that Pochettino has improved, maybe not their value, but definitely up their net worth to where they were last season, or if they've been purchased, they're probably worth a little bit more now as well. So, look, Cucurella was bought for a lot of money, but when this season started, no one was even risking a transfer fee or a big loan fee. So all of a sudden now, I think Cucurella is a player that other clubs would consider looking at again if he was up for sale. I think players like Jackson, Mudrik's output's been better.
Who improved then? I'm sorry. I had this massive argument with HUSAM on the football terrace, right?
Yeah.
About who actually improved from Chelsea. Let me do these couple of super chats before we go on. Andrew Wright. Oh, Andrew, thank you so much. Becoming a member for 3 months. Big up. I think the Premier League is overrated. A lot of people are saying that now. I still think the Premier League is the best league to watch, in my opinion. Andrew is saying we want West Ham winger 85 million release clause. That's Kudus. He's saying for Liverpool. Big up, Andrew. Tevin, big up to the panel. I personally think the league is done. City won't drop points, but I'm still proud of us. Also, how is the composure going, Rory?
Badly.
All right. Poch didn't want Palmer. All right. And it's all right. See, and
I
see
think
saying
it's hard to say that though, isn't it? Like
see,
no
our
one
left-
knew what he was consisting of.
A lot of good managers have not wanted players, but a testament of a good
I know
manager
where
being
this is
able to
going
work
right
with them.
away. Once you see
Yeah.
a Liverpool fan saying, "Well, the manager didn't want a player," you know where this is going. Klopp won his
it's
brands,
the case,
and he got
it's the
Salah.
case. It's the case.
And because
So
that worked very well, they're like, they think everybody's the same.
No, but it's not the only one he's ever had, though. That's the thing. A testament of a good manager is
Well,
they
your
might not
manager is
get
a
the
bomb
player-
in talent ID. That's completely different. Don't expect every manager to be like this.
Yeah, I'll have. You're acting like I'd try and suggest otherwise. The point is,
Yeah,
the
I'm
fact-
not slagging him off. The guy is great in coaching and developing.
if a
players.
manager can still work with a player that he necessarily didn't want and still get really good performances out of them, i.e. what Pochettino has done with Cole Palmer this season, should he have not wanted them, according to that,
and
then that's a testament to a good manager and a good player. It's not a bad thing. And I don't know why people try and suggest it is a bad thing. It's why managers shouldn't be in charge of the transfers.
Bang on.
this is absolutely. Anyway, I disagree with this completely. Our best left back is in the Champions League final. Lord, that's Ian Maatsen. See, I'm gonna respond to that and then respond to that before we move on from this. That notion that a player goes and plays in a different league with a different team with a different system, and because they are performing well, and then they're gonna come back and perform the same way. I think this notion is yet to be proven. Darwin Núñez had an amazing season at Benfica, came to Liverpool, looks like a bum, right? Looks like an absolute bum. It's completely different. Josko Gvardiol, a left center back, came to Manchester City, doesn't play as a center back, plays as a left wing, excels at it. It's completely different league, different way of playing, different coach. Ian Maatsen might come to Chelsea and be exposed for physicality, for example. Maybe he'll get eaten alive. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying that Ian Maatsen is bad, but every time
I
I've seen
don't
him
think
play
he got
for
the chance,
Chelsea,
though. I don't think he got the chance this season at Chelsea.
That I
because
agree with you. That
Again,
I agree with you.
it comes down to the appointment of the manager. Pochettino likes physical defenders. If you go look at how his Tottenham defenses were, they were more
Big
physically
guys,
often
basically
played.
big guys.
Yeah, he
Big
often
guys.
played Jan Vertonghen at left back when he needed
Yeah.
more defense security. There.
No,
So
but
when
he
you
had
got
Danny Rose though. He had Danny Rose.
yeah,
and he
but
had
Danny Rose
yeah.
was still a bit. Danny Rose had a little bit of a presence about him as a left back. He had a
Stocky.
number of good years. Ian Maatsen's 5'6".
Yeah.
Ian Maatsen's
Maybe he didn't like him.
diminutive.
You're right. Maybe he
But
didn't like
I look at Ian Maatsen had a very good year in the Championship, which is a physical league, and then he's went to Dortmund and played in the Champions League, which is a lot more technical in its way, and performed well as well. So physically, he can hack it. Technically, he can hack it. Why didn't it work out at Chelsea? Because Pochettino mustn't like the profile that he is. I personally would love for Ian Maatsen at Liverpool next year. I think he's the type of left back that we need, an attacking player who's got an older understudy there to work with. But for whatever reason, Poch didn't see it that way. But that is one of the blights on him, because I think he would have solved a few of the problems Chelsea have had this year. Because Chilwell, for as good attacking as he is, his end product is horrendous this year. He gets forward, but he can't cross. And Cucurella missed large parts of the season through injury and wasn't really played. And only recently, once he's inverted, which is not really what Pochettino has done with fullbacks before, have you started to see something out of him? So stuff like that, which can look back negatively on the manager. But I'm not using the whole Palmer stuff as a negative on him, just because he didn't want him, but he still got him performing really well. You've got to understand what it is. That there's differences, and Poch has got some things right, Poch has got some things wrong. Ultimately, he should stay for another year.
Is that true? See, thank you for the super chat. Is that true, guys? Is this actually a true statement?
I don't know if he said he wasn't tall enough, but what he was after is more height in his back line. I think people forget that Thiago Silva is 5'10". I think Levi Colwill was obviously put there at times when a left back wasn't in the team, because we started the season, Chilwell pretty much started the season at this kind of unorthodox left wing position. Levi Colwell obviously came in and played at left back as well at times. And that kind of was similar, I felt, to that Vertonghen role, putting a centre back there and being on his left foot and kind of hoping that would add a bit of height to the team. I think with Maatsen, the thing is that there pre-season, he kind of played on the wing and as a 10 and had a really good pre-season. I think Poch felt like that could be something that would work. Then obviously players came in. Players like Cole Palmer came in who weren't even there in pre-season and excelled straight away. And I think Maatsen's potential role that was there in pre-season kind of disappeared in front of his eyes because of the players that Chelsea were adding to the team. And obviously early results in the Premier League weren't great either. Then Maatsen had very limited game time in defensive positions. I think he played a little bit of right back. He had a few minutes at left back as well. But physically, I don't think he looked up to the challenge in a couple of games I've seen him play. And then I think confidence was obviously shot as well. And I think we've seen it with a player like Sancho as well, that sometimes that move to the Bundesliga in a free-flowing, technical, attacking team like Dortmund, it's just really suited his style of football. Yeah. And the argument for me is that maybe Maatsen and Chelsea and the Premier League isn't a good fit for Maatsen. I'm not sure, but go move on, play in Germany, we'll get a good fee for him as well. And there's no hard feelings there. And I actually think Pochettino probably rates Maatsen. He just couldn't find the place for him in his team. I wouldn't say he didn't rate him at all.
Guys, we have about 500 people here and we aren't even on 200 likes. And also, I am 3 likes away from 20K 500. So just 3 subscribers. I'm sure I guarantee you there's about 20 to 50 of you that haven't subscribed. You're just watching and you aren't subscribed. So, and also I want you guys to turn on the notification bell. The actual percentage is shocking, actually. It's only 10% of the subscribers have the notification bell on. It's absolutely shocking. Shame. We need more people, and we need the like button. Guys, let's get to 250 likes within the next. I guarantee you we'll reach 600 people watching if you get us to 300 likes. If you like the video now, and I'm sure there is about 20 or 30 of you who haven't subscribed yet, right? So subscribe to the channel. Here we go. I see the number going up, so keep going. I want to move on from Chelsea a little bit and go on to Arsenal and Manchester City. But I want to start with Manchester City and this Gvardiol talk.
My boy.
Right? Gvardiol. Okay. Behind the scenes, I tried to compare the signing to Declan Rice. But I have a very strange take about Gvardiol, and hear it, and then everyone gets their take on it. Man City fans are going around to everyone and then poking their back and saying, do you see Gvardiol is a success? Do you see Gvardiol is great? You called him a flop. You called him a flop. But I want to tell you something, Nobbins. When you bought Gvardiol and spent 70 million...
Is this going to upset me?
A little bit. It is. But you can defend your player. This is my take on Gvardiol.
Just mentally preparing myself.
Prepare yourself. Embrace. Yep. Just put the seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Gvardiol, you bought a centre-back that was one of the best centre-backs in Germany in RB Leipzig. The left centre-back that played for Croatia in a World Cup in a back 4. He came to the club, right? And he didn't play centre-back. So you paid some money for a centre-back. And then he scored some goals and had some assists and playing very good offensive football as a left winger. With his positioning on the pitch, it's very obvious that he's playing as a left winger. And Nathan Ake is chosen over him as the left centre-back in the back 3 or a back 4, whatever you want to call it, right? And then Man City fans are telling me this is a great signing. It's the same as Liverpool tomorrow. Go sign a centre-back, and then halfway through the season, he struggles a little bit in the beginning of the season. And then halfway through the season, that centre-back is playing as a striker and scoring goals. And Liverpool fans tell us, did you see the signing was a success? But you signed a centre-back and you're raving about him scoring goals. Isn't that something a little bit odd? Isn't it better to spend that money and go sign a Kudus, for example, who maybe would have been a better left winger than Gvardiol, or sign a left wing back who can play higher on the pitch? You're raving about his offensive attributes while you sign the best centre-back in Croatia, the upcoming centre-back in Germany, in RB Leipzig, and you're raving about him scoring goals and having assists and dribbling and doing step-overs and stuff like that. That is a very strange...
Well, what are you on about? You're basically knocking Gvardiol for being good at attacking.
I am not.
Because you didn't know he was good at attacking.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I am
This
not.
is,
I'm actually not. I'm actually not.
That's
I'm
worse than I
actually.
thought it was going to be, to be
It's
honest.
not. It's
Yeah,
not.
it is. No, it is.
Th-
I,
th-
I
this
was.
is the
Liverpool.
first
Okay,
time-
I give you an
I didn't
example.
prepare myself enough.
I
to be
give
honest.
you an example. If Liverpool tomorrow sign a centre back, okay, listen. Okay, I'm gonna flip it. If Arsenal tomorrow sign a striker, and then halfway through the season, it's not working very well for him as a striker, and he's playing as a DM, and he's doing a good job as a DM. Can Arsenal tell us that that was a successful signing?
We've done
I'm gonna
that,
ask
though.
Rory.
Yeah, because
They
we've done it
literally
before.
done that this year with Havertz.
We've done it with
Right,
Havertz this year. We did it.
Actually,
we bought
Havertz is actually a forward. You tried
Right.
Okay,
it
but
as
we
a
played
left
him in the
centre mid,
midfield.
and it
We-
didn't
we
work
bought-
out.
We bought Ben White as a centre back. He now plays as our right back. We bought Jurriën Timber as a centre back. He's now going to play as left back, having never played there before. What City have done and what Arsenal have done is they buy exceptionally good players
Okay.
and then they fit them into the system. So what they've done with Gvardiol is looked at a player who's clearly.
By the way, I'm
incredibly
accepting
good.
to take this as an L take. I don't. If someone convince me,
so I think what-
I'm gonna. By the way, this
it's
is
a
not.
capital
This is
LT.
not. Okay, I'm fine.
May
By
I
the way,
respond?
I am gonna sit here and actually hear the explanation.
Yeah, let Nobbins respond.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, right. Okay, here we go. The analogy doesn't work for a number of reasons. In the first instance, you have to understand what City were looking for when we went to sign Gvardiol. And plug on my channel, I did an analysis, Gvardiol analysis video when he was announced as a signing. As City fans, we all knew what he was going to be. He was never signed to be a centre-back. So your starting point isn't correct because he was never signed to be a centre-back.
Okay.
This is why
I didn't know that, so it's fine.
this is why I don't know how many times he's played as an out-and-out centre-back this season. It feels like maybe 1 or 2 times. Your analogy falls apart because you started it under the pretense that he started as a centre-back, didn't play well, so was then moved to another position to accommodate him. But that's not what the chain of events was. The chain of events was we needed a left-footed centre-back who was also comfortable as playing as a left-back. The idea being that he could play as a left centre-back in possession, but be a left back out of possession. Okay. So in terms of off ball play, he was never signed to be a centre back. Really, in terms of this season, anyway, he was supposed to be a blend between what Ake is and what Laporte was. Ake's comfortable wide defending, Laporte's on ball quality. That's what Gvardiol is. That's what he was brought in to do. And indeed, that's what we've seen. That's why he played left back and has played left back basically every single game. It just so happens that by extension, sort of by January, Pep decided and wanted to experiment and go, could this guy play left wing as well? And he tried him there. And what do we see? He actually can do that role as well. And he can play in that hybrid winger defender role as well. So trying to use his versatility and utility as a thing against him is mad to me. Because again, he wasn't brought in to be an out-and-out centre-back. He was brought in to be a left-back and a centre-back, and it just so happens that his on-ball quality is so good he can also play its left wing. He was not bad at the start of the season either, so that's also where the analogy falls apart. He was quite good at the start of the season. He just happened to get better. He was never bad. People decided for whatever reason that he was a flop. This was a silly thing to say. That is my response.
The conversation could be, why have you got a centre back that's a better left winger than £100 million Jack Grealish?
But he isn't, is he? He's more versatile. Jack Grealish has started like 10 Premier League games. Jack Grealish has started like 10 Premier League games this season. He's been injured. He's been ill. He's not been available. We played our best football when Grealish was in the side. The issue was that we rushed him back from injury twice this season. So we didn't learn our first lesson. We played brilliant football with him in the side. He gets injured because we rush him back. We bring him back into the side again. Again, it's our best football this season. He gets injured again. That's what's happening. So if you want to say that Gvardiol has been a better left winger than Grealish this season, that's probably a fair thing to say because Grealish has hardly played this season, as I say, due to injury primarily, not due to him being out of form or anything. History last season tells us how good Jack Grealish is as a footballer. When Grealish has been available this season, that tells us how good he is as a footballer. We don't win the treble last season without Jack Grealish. So let's not become too hyperbolic about this and start saying that a centre back is better than him. He might become better than him, to be fair. He's certainly more versatile because he's a centre back who can play at left wing. But let's not get cheeky. And again, if once he's been bad this season, I'll accept that because he's hardly played any football. Again, 10 starts. He's only played like 1,000 minutes or something in the Premier League, which is, tiny considering how many games we play. Again, he's been injured at least 3 times.
Go on, Rory, do it. Do it. Run your agenda.
I just think I'll be honest. Like, I was looking up some stats. Jack Grealish in 3 years at Man City, 3 whole years as £100 million winger, has 11 goals and 11 assists in the Premier League. In 3 years.
Is that
£100 million quid.
Was that your bombshell stat? I knew that.
Well, I think when you start comparing it then to Anthony Gordon, we were saying, Anthony Gordon could never be worth 100 million. He's got 10 goals and 10 assists this season.
Well, they aren't the same players, and they don't have the same roles, and they don't play in the same system.
No, they're wingers. They are wingers.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah,
Rory between the two, isn't there?
I forgot that a winger is a winger is a winger. I didn't realize that there were different. I forgot that roles don't exist and all that matters is positions. No, you're absolutely right.
No, wingers do one of two things. Wingers either score goals or get
stop
assists.
trying to do a logical.
No,
otherwise, otherwise they aren't called wingers. Okay.
No, they are, Mo. And a winger in a Pep Guardiola system. Look at a couple of players that he's had previously. They can be so many different types of wingers. Like you're seeing Gvardiol used now as a winger. You've seen Jack Grealish. You've seen Raheem Sterling, you've seen a Mahrez, a Doku. They all have way different attributes to each other. Like, look, Jack
Gvardiol is not a winger. Gvardiol is a left back going as a winger in a different formation.
That's what I said, right?
He's not being used as a winger. I'm gonna repeat Dan.
In possession in recent months, yes,
he goes up and the left winger tucks in. So there is a left winger that starts for the team. There is an offensive player there, but they tuck inside.
Yeah, and they play midfield.
And they're not. Their role isn't to be. If they're tucking inside, then their role isn't to be occupying the space on the wing.
Exactly.
The thing is, no one can ever explain what his role is. Everyone says, "Oh, that's not his role. It's not his role."
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
His role
he does less defensive work than Bukayo Saka, right? So if you say, "Oh, he's got to do more defensive work," he does less than Bukayo Saka, and Bukayo Saka has more goals this season.
Rory.
So what's his role?
His role is to be. I think personally, Jack Grealish was signed as a differential player in this Manchester City team, where a lot of them are very, very strong in terms of what they can do in terms of their passing and those sort of attributes and how they keep possession. Jack Grealish is dynamic, where the way he travels through the pitch with the ball allows him to allow City to move up the pitch if they're struggling to move out of their own half, or get on the ball and move it 10, 20 yards further forwards, win free kicks in dangerous areas. There's a lot of things to Jack Grealish's game that I don't think you can go with stats and be like, because these stats don't add up, Jack Grealish isn't a good player. Jack Grealish is the type of player where I think Pep Guardiola and Manchester City hierarchy in terms of directors have looked at him and they've said, with their eye test, this player could be beneficial with the style of football that we play. And there's a time and a place for him, which I think we're seeing more this season, probably because of his injuries as well. But last season, that type of football that Jack Grealish brought to Manchester City was influential to them winning the treble.
Okay, so this is where...
Actually, they didn't want Jack Grealish. Actually, the money was going to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane fell off.
No, that's bollocks, Mo. You are chatting bollocks. We wanted to sign both. We wanted to sign both.
Guys, that season they were talking... That season, there was Harry Kane, 100 million, 150.
Yes, and we had money to afford both, Mo.
Okay, so you were going to buy both. Okay, good to know. You were going to buy both players, 200 million.
Yes, we were.
200 plus million.
Yes, we were.
Oh, okay. I'm just putting this out there that I'm not the one who said it. You're the one who said it, right? Okay.
Going back to what Dan said, so he said he wasn't there as they had passers of the ball, so he wasn't there to go in as an elite passer of the ball. We established he doesn't do as much defensive work as someone like Bukayo Saka. His attacking output is worse than holding midfielders at Arsenal and at City. So, and you said he carries the ball. He carries the ball, and he doesn't even take players on anymore. So basically, he can run.
He didn't do that at Villa either, by the way. He didn't do that at Villa. He didn't do that at Villa.
He did.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
The point is that Jack Grealish was wildly overpriced for what he has delivered at Man City, and that no one can really explain.
I will explain to you if you'd like what he's doing in the City side. I'm not going to argue the price tag because it was a release clause. So that's a red herring. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's in 20. Right, but I'm not
also,
going.
You can't argue the price tag. Like the price tag, people go on about this £100 million.
It's a red herring.
Aston Villa decided that if Jack Grealish was to leave Aston Villa, it would be for 100 million or not. It's like if you want to go and buy an iPhone from Apple, it's £1,000, right? As an example, yeah. You aren't going to Apple and being like, "Oh, mate, sell it for 600." It's just not happening. They're going to go, "No, someone else will buy it." So Aston Villa said if he's going to leave, he's going to go for £100 million. City happen to have £100 million of disposable income to spend on a player, hoping that he would be the right fit for their team. And in my opinion, they knew exactly what they were buying. And I think they've reaped the rewards of that last season.
Literally.
But my issue is the way that City are kind of given this almost like they can go out, they can massively overspend on players, and there's no element of scrutiny over it. Whereas we look at every
vital component of the treble
because they win.
What is happening?
Of course, it's because they win. But
scrutiny is brought about by underperformance, and ultimately, City win constantly. So it's very hard to scrutinise a player and a team when they continue to do their jobs. For me, I look at Grealish in that City team, and I think he gives them balance. Whenever Grealish plays, I think their left-hand side is a lot less exposed than what it is when Doku's out there or when fucking Foden or Alvarez is out there. I think when Grealish is there, there's a lot more balance and a lot more structure to it. It also actually allows them to set up their defence in the correct way, which is where the right-hand side is the more attacking side, because they know that they can effectively just leave him out there and he won't cost them. He won't try and be too risky. He won't make incorrect decisions. Is he to me, I still think he was slightly overpriced. I do. I'm not going to argue that's for me. But he's come in and he's done a job for City that they needed to. That they needed to be done.
The point is, could they not have just signed a £40 million player that would have done the same and probably added goals and assists?
Name one.
What, one player that can run 20 yards with the ball?
Jack Grealish. Right, I guess I now actually need to explain to you what he does. Would you like that?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Right, okay. So, in the first instance, I'm going to accept that he does need to be more aggressive in terms of his shooting, and it's not good enough. He should be scoring more. So I'm not going to out and out defend him. The main thing that Grealish brings in, and Tom was touching on it is in part balance. But the main thing for me, however, is one of the most crucial things. Again, I can only talk about last season because I'm not trying to claim it's been good this season. Is getting City up the pitch in a dangerous manner. I think only Matoma last season surpassed Jack Grealish in respect of expected threats gained by progressive carries. He was in the top 1% in respect of progressive carries. He was the top 1% in respect of carrying the ball into the box. What does that mean? Not only does it mean it gets your team up the pitch, which sounds like, oh, can anyone not just do that? Not when you're up against a low block, you can't, because it's nearly impossible to progress up the pitch in the opposition's defensive third when they are camped in like that. So the fact that Grealish is able to find those spaces and create those spaces for others and also act like a magnet to others as well. Grealish's decision-making is fantastic. He knows when to slow the game down. He knows when to speed the game up. And again, it's that thing of he looks like he's not doing anything, but then he drags two defenders to him and then he plays someone in and then they have a chance. And it might not be a direct goal contribution by Grealish. It might be an early-ish stage in the attacking sequence, but it's almost as valuable as an assist because it's creating to and leading to the attack. The other thing is that if you've got players like Haaland in your team and De Bruyne in your team, you need more chilled out players, basically. You need more horizontal players who are more willing to drop and go. People criticize them going backwards, but sometimes you have to do that. Again, if you've got more forward-thinking players like Foden and De Bruyne and Haaland and now Doku, etc., you need more reserved players, and that's what Grealish is. It's balance, it's ball carrying, it's progression, it's making those when the space is there as well. By the way, like we saw it in the Champions League last season, some of his best performances were against Bayern Munich and against Real Madrid in the semi-final and the quarter-final because there was actually space to run into. So people might not see the best version of Jack Grealish up against a low block. Maybe that's more when you've got a player like Doku. But that is what he does. It is primarily, as I say, not focused on goals. And yes, again, I think he should be getting more. He should just be taking more shots, to be fair. The assist numbers is also a bit of a red herring because he was in the top 1% for expected assists last season. That's not his fault. That tells me that It was the finishing of his teammates, which wasn't good enough in those moments. That's what that stat tells you. You're shaking your head, but that's literally what expected assists tells you. It tells you how many assists you should have got, dependent on the quality of your pass. The fact is that it was much higher than his actual assists. That tells us that the finishing wasn't good enough for those passes. That's not really something you can argue against. So I don't know why you're shaking your head. So that is what he offers. Is that worth £100 million? Maybe not, but we don't win the treble without that. So depends what value you want to put on that.
You make some really good points there, by the way. But I think that also means that he could be worth £100 because how I look at it is, right, is that, 100 million, right?
Yeah.
How I look at it is that if you're desperate for 30 goals and you identify the perfect player for your system that's going to score you those 30 goals, you're willing to overpay for that player. If Manchester City looked at their squad and said, right, when we're playing against teams that are sat in a low block, we aren't able to progress far enough forward because the dribblers in our team, when they get on the ball, they're only moving the ball 5 yards. We could do with them doing 10, 15, 20, moving us that little bit further up. Then we become dangerous in this area. Where do we find that player? Well, they might have scouted that for 2 seasons, and then Jack Grealish is there, and they go, right, that is the perfect player we can sign to solve that one issue in our squad that makes us a treble winning side. And then they call up Aston Villa and say, look, how much is this going to cost? He's perfect for us. He is the final piece of the puzzle for this Manchester City side to win a treble, win the Champions League, bar Haaland, right, say it, obviously. But this is theoretical.
That's the thing, they brought in Haaland.
Yeah, but okay. But they also identified, hang on, I'll get onto Haaland in a second. But they've gone and looked at Jack Grealish and they said, this is a perfect player for us. He suits exactly what we need to solve this problem we've got. Pep is a solution solver. A problem solver. He will find solutions, and they probably identified Jack Grealish and gone, I don't care what it costs. He is the solution to this problem. If it costs 100 million, it costs 100 million. Go and make it happen. He also probably looked at it and felt like there were other players in his team that aren't finishing the chances that they should have been doing, and he probably realised that if there was someone in the team that could potentially score those chances as well, then that's also worth 40 goals a season. Why don't we go and find the perfect player for that? And they did that with Haaland as well. So,
can I interject here and say something?
Yeah.
Actually, Jack Grealish had last season in the Premier League had 7 expected assists and had 7 assists.
I'm talking about all comps, Mo.
Okay, so I'm just because I looked at the Premier League. Okay, so he had 7 assists. Okay, I agree with you.
We won the treble. Didn't Jack Grealish have the stat for the most chances created by an Englishman last season in the Champions League as well?
Most chances, not big chances. By the way,
big chances is a subjective metric anyway,
I'm going to tell you.
Irrelevancy.
This is where we actually do the stats thing. Pass sideways and someone shooting from 30 yards, that's called X assists. That's a chance created. You know that. You know that me passing 2 yards.
That's going to get you like a 0.05 expected assist.
No. That's sideways. And then that guy shoots. That's called a chance, because you said chance created. That is called a chance created. Anyway, in my opinion, I actually think that we are talking about a player who cost 100 million. Only City can get away with this.
If your only point is price tag,
can I say
no, it wasn't your point, though, Roy, because your point was you don't know what Grealish does. That was your point. I've told you what he does.
Well, yeah, but you described Leandro. You basically described a Leandro Trossard that doesn't score goals and needed an entire season to understand what Pep wanted him to do.
That's not what Trossard. That's not what Trossard does at all.
That's basically what you described. They are different players. Trossard scores goals.
That's not what I described at all.
I don't think Manchester City cared whether they were getting a player that scores goals in Jack Grealish. They were getting a player that would excel in the area that they needed a player to excel in. That's why the price tag is almost, look, it's not irrelevant, but the price tag isn't really the issue with Jack Grealish. He's doing the exact role that they expected him to do, so the price tag is fair. If
they expected when they bought him
100 million on a player and you expect him to score 30 goals and you've signed him to score you 30 goals and he gets you 10, then you've overpaid for a player.
But how do we know that this is what they expected then? How do
this is how it changes.
By the way,
you know my point. Can I
may I just say one thing? May I just say one thing in response to Rory? I just had to check it just to make sure my brain was functioning. Grealish is in the top 1% of progressive carries. Trossard's in the bottom 38%. So in what way are they the same?
No, they're completely different players. That's an outrage.
Tell me, Rory, in what way are they the same?
You've highlighted one stat, one singular stat.
I've
which is
highlighted the
what-
main
which-
value of what
That
Jack Grealish
alone
brings to the
shows
City
you
side.
how different those players are. In the
Can I
top
ask
you've
something? Who was better last season, Jack Grealish or Gabriel Martinelli?
Jack Grealish.
Grealish.
So a winger that had over 20 GA in the Premier League only is worse than a winger, right? That cost
No, because
triple-
everyone keeps using the term winger
Yes,
and judging him by
yeah.
what a winger and what our mind of a winger is. Wingers are changing. Why do we not? It's like if I was to try and judge Roberto Firmino by what Haaland does, it's a fucking stupid comparison because whilst they play the same position,
It's
they
shame
play it
on you to
differently.
compare Roberto Firmino to Jack Grealish. Shame on you as a Liverpool fan.
What?
Shame on you
Nubbins,
to do
Nubbins,
that.
where did I compare?
Shame on you
Where did I do that?
to
Where did I
compare
do that?
Roberto
Mo-
Firmino
Mo-
to
I
Jack
did not do that
Mo
in
lost
any
this
way.
argument when he tried to say that all wingers
No,
are the
I
same and that
actually
a
haven't
winger is a
said
winger.
anything about. By the way, I haven't said
Mo,
anything
you
about
literally
that.
said a winger either does this or this, and
I
that is a
actually haven't
load of
said anything. I'm
hokum.
gonna tell exactly. I'm gonna tell you. Want my opinion?
I've got
Jack
your opinion.
Grealish-
You think all wingers are the same, or they
No,
only
no,
have
no,
two
no, no,
jobs?
no, no. I actually think Jack Grealish was bought thinking that he's going to be the same guy that does the things for Manchester City, that for Aston Villa, right? As a winger who keeps the ball, drive at defenders, create things, make things happen. When they bought him in the first year, it didn't work out. Very obvious. It didn't work out. Took him a while to get used to the system and all the stuff, and he couldn't.
Because he wasn't doing the exact same he was doing at Aston Villa. You've literally answered your own question.
Let me finish, and then you'll get what I actually my point. In the second season, Pep Guardiola didn't get another winger, right? So he had to work with Jack Grealish. He had to work around what Jack Grealish can offer, which is different than what he offered for Aston Villa for some reason. And he doesn't want Jack Grealish to take risks, right? But that was proven wrong when he was asking Doku to take risks this season. When Doku came on at Real Madrid, he was driving every time at defenders. And I said that many times. Jack Grealish, every time he played last season, he was all right. Sometimes he was absolutely offered the chance to express himself. That's when he looked brilliant. But the other times he wasn't. He was scared. That's why, by the way, Pep Guardiola said that we want more output. If Pep Guardiola didn't expect more output, why did he go public and say, I'm expected more output from him?
I've said that as well. That's not in dispute.
That's not if a coach is happy with what a player is doing, calling him out, but not calling him out. Ask him
Well,
publicly.
Pep's a perfectionist, so that's a silly thing to
Okay,
say.
so ask
Pep
him-
also wants Haaland to do
See,
more. He wants him to do
everything
more
is
last season.
tailored I think everything around Man City, it was made to protect Jack Grealish and what he does. He changed the system for him. Jack Grealish does exactly what
No,
Pep
he
said.
didn't.
Let
He
me
did
finish.
not.
Nobbins, let me
Pep's
finish,
too
please,
ruthless. He
Nobbins.
wouldn't do that. Pep signed
Nobbins,
that
let
and
me
he couldn't.
finish.
It
Guys,
didn't
let me
work.
finish,
He
please.
sold him.
No. They can't sell him because they invested £100 million in him, right? And by the way, and I'm going to tell you, Jack Grealish is very good off the pitch. He's a very nice guy. He's kind of one of the faces of the club. He does all this charity work and celebrates well. Party boy, but also works very hard, right? Works very hard on the pitch. I got to give him this, right? So from a selling point of view, there was no point of them losing money on him because nobody's going to pay 100 million for Jack Grealish. They weren't going to get 40, 50
Nor are we
million
going to
for
sell him.
Exactly.
Nor would we
because
want.
he's a
Nor would
very
we
good
want
face
to
of the
sell
club.
him.
My point is, Jack Grealish, every time he plays, it's all about protection. He protects the ball. He keeps the ball. While a lot of people at Man City can keep the ball. A lot of people can keep the ball because Pep is the genius that can teach people how to keep the ball.
Literally,
And he
no
did
one
it
can
with a
progress it
lot
to
of
his level.
players.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I
there's a
actually think
difference, Mo,
this
between
is all about to protect Jack Grealish because he's a good guy off the pitch.
No way. No manager
That's
does
it.
that.
This
Oh
is
my
so
God,
silly.
player out to dry.
This is
That's
really
never
silly,
happened.
man.
And you
Look.
didn't have another winger. Jack Grealish this season, when he was fit, a lot of men said, we played very well. But actually, against Real Madrid, you weren't going to draw the game if it wasn't for Doku coming in to terrorize Real Madrid defense. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Jack Grealish,
Right,
right,
so there was one game
Can I
state
finish
this
the last-
season.
can I-
There
no,
was
no,
one
Plays at the
game state
Bernabeu,
this
by the way.
season where the Doku was needed. That's your point.
Oh my
You
God.
can't just use a substitute appearance in a game which they ultimately lost and go, that is the proof why Jack Grealish is pointless. Because game states are important.
Mhm.
Game states are
Okay,
important.
I use that example because it highlights the point. This
Why
is
don't you
what's
use the
called.
Bernabeu
You
where
use
he's
another
really good?
example, right? in the Bernabeu. He was good.
When he was class, and like destroyed Carvajal. Won't use that game.
Destroyed Carvajal in terms of Carvajal had a yellow card in the first minute and kept playing until the last minute. Is that if
Who was it that drew the yellow card on him? Sorry.
Okay, so Carvajal had a yellow card on him, and Carvajal stayed on the pitch.
Why did he?
Because Jack Grealish dived, and because Jack Grealish dives. But I can't remember the yellow card exactly, but I think it was a foul on Jack Grealish. Basically, that's what happened. But the fact
I can't remember it. But Grealish dived.
Say, bro, if someone is telling me here that the fullback had a yellow card in the first 10-15 minutes and kept playing the whole game on him, and the fullback wasn't even subbed out, that would you call destroy? A winger that destroys a fullback will force the coach to sub him, and he had Lucas Vazquez outside, but he kept Carvajal. Carvajal was confident and comfort that Jack Grealish doesn't create a lot. When Bellingham, who isn't a defender, stays in front of Jack Grealish, and I said that many times, right? I said that many times. Man City fans, you are very sensitive. And because you are very sensitive only for Jack Grealish. When Jude Bellingham, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, stays in front of Jack Grealish, who's a technical winger, and tells all his teammates, stand like, I got this. And at the end, Jack Grealish doesn't dribble at him. And even the commentators say, well, Jack Grealish, you might take risks here and go dribble at him. And he still passes back to keep the ball, right? Wow. How is that? The guy is an offensive player. It's not even a defender. Jack Grealish, in a nutshell, play the safe pass for you to look like you are keeping the ball. Don't take risks. While Doku might attempt 7 dribbles, succeed only in 3, but create something from these 3 and lose the ball the other 4. But in the 3, he creates something. But Jack Grealish just keeps the ball, bro.
So basically, Jack Grealish understands that he isn't the best player in Man City. He's actually far from the best player in Man City, let alone the midfield. There are Foden, De Bruyne, Haaland, Bernardo Silva, who are all better and more effective in the final third than him. And yet you want him to take the ball off them and stop them doing what they do best to go and do it himself.
Why
is that the point we're getting?
Can you answer this? Why Doku is allowed to do?
Because Doku can't do the other job. Doku is not smart enough. Doku doesn't make the correct decisions. And when you go on about, Doku does stuff at the end. No, he doesn't. That's why if you take away
you really think
he's had a
that
shit
Doku,
season.
Does anybody here gonna sit and convince me that Doku goes against the coach, try to dribble 6-7 times?
No, he doesn't.
It's wrong. So I am wrong here.
Oh my God. No, I didn't say that. What I said was, no, he doesn't go against the coach's instructions. Pep tells him to do that because Pep knows he can't tell Doku to do what Grealish does and to be as disciplined as Grealish is and to be as facilitating as Grealish is, because Doku isn't that type of player. So it'd be stupid for him to do that. But what's more likely, Mo? Could Doku do what Grealish does for 90 minutes, or could Grealish do what Doku does?
I actually think Doku can do what Grealish do. Doku can take the ball and pass back all the time and keep the ball. Complete 95%
that's not fair to say that's what Grealish does, Mo.
You don't understand what
and
Grealish is doing.
Doku
this is a pointless exercise because I actually outlined quite succinctly what he does, but you've just not accepted that.
Yeah, I agree.
You pulled up one stat. Do you know this is what?
No, I didn't, Rory. No, I didn't. I pulled out
allowed.
one stat to counter your point that Trossard and Grealish are basically the same players. That was one stat.
You pulled that stat out before.
What you need to do,
I pulled that point up and many other points up, Rory. Let's not be disingenuous or cheeky here, or try to put words in my mouth. I won't be gaslit.
This is the problem. Because City won the treble, we're not allowed to scrutinise any players in that. We're not allowed to say
no. That's not what we said.
Because the treble side had Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Rodri, all of these world-class players, that we can't possibly say that actually, if you'd had a decent £40 million left winger, you'd have won the treble as well. The idea that you only won the treble because of Jack Grealish, and therefore he justified the £100 million price tag.
We won Jack Grealish because of the system, and the system probably doesn't work. Well, it certainly doesn't work nearly as well. Maybe it doesn't work at all without Jack Grealish in it. So yes, I do think it is fair to say, but without Grealish, we certainly do not win the treble. In the same way that we don't win it without Haaland or Gundogan or Bernardo Silva or Ruben Diaz or Akanji or Ederson. They're all valuable to this system.
And without one single one of those. So if one of those had been injured for the season, you wouldn't have won the treble.
If Grealish is out for the season, no chance we win the treble.
I am going to say this. That the only dispensable player in Man City last season, right, is Jack Grealish.
Who for? Who plays instead of him in that system? Tell me.
I don't
He's disposable.
Care. Any left winger that if Pep Guardiola got a left winger for 2 years, anyone other than Jack Grealish, You still have one treble.
We say
If you-
disposable.
I'm
in
gonna,
that
I'm
squad,
gonna
so-
responsible. I'm gonna say if you didn't have Erling Haaland, you're definitely not winning the treble. If you didn't have Kevin De Bruyne, you didn't win the treble. If you didn't have John Stones inverting, you didn't win the treble. Rodri the same. By the way, Gundogan the same. If Pep Guardiola got Gabriel Martinelli or got Trossard, just hold on, or got Trossard for 2 years, right,
Yeah,
on that
Trossard,
left
yeah.
side and coached them for left side, you would have won the treble. Because
We
what
wouldn't.
Jack Grealish does is something that can be taught. Dan got upset. But anyway, Dan got upset. I know that
No,
you
no, I'm
scored.
here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Why
I
doesn't
know that-
everyone do it then?
I know because you bought the 100 million and you had to actually make it work.
No, but
Bro,
Mo,
this guy's
Mo,
been
if
absolute-
there
you
was
have to
any
make it
club,
work,
if there was
This
any
is
club
so-
that
this is
could
such
just
a
throw away
argument,
100
man.
million quid, it would be City. If there was any club that bought someone for 100 million and went, oh, it's just not going to work out for whatever reason, they would just move them on. That's any club because guess what? They make the most money. So they could, if there's one club in the world
you
that can
think
afford
Jack
that, they
Grealish,
can.
they could have moved him on. Wallahi, this is the notion that I disagree with. Someone who is very good off the pitch for the image of the club, Jack Grealish. People love him. People at the city love him. The fan love him. Because he's a
So you're
great
telling
guy.
me,
Can you
you're
let me
telling me
finish,
if
please? I
Pep
let you
Guardiola,
finish. Can you let me
because
finish?
your point
I
is
had to go
your
2
point is
minutes, though, by the
stupid.
way.
Your point is stupid.
Say
If
that again,
you're
Noble?
telling me if Pep Guardiola
That's 2
goes
minutes.
there, if
Yes,
Pep
I know.
Guardiola goes into a transfer
You're
meeting
on
goes,
TikTok.
"Look, it's not going to work with Jack Grealish. I need to move him on." Do you think Omar Barada or whoever was there before would go, "No, Pep, you're not allowed to get rid of him and buy someone else because we need Jack Grealish for the kit sales"?
Can I tell you something? Do you remember Ferran Torres?
Yes, I remember Ferran
So
Torres.
Ferran Torres, that's what happened. Ferran Torres came to the club. I think if I get this story correctly before Nobins go and I do the super chat, Ferran Torres came to the club, tried to play a striker, right winger. For some reason, I don't think it worked out, even though he scored goals. But Barcelona came in calling and they made money off him, right? Jack Grealish was 100 million, bro, right? And Ferran Torres wasn't loved at the club like Jack Grealish. Do you think if Jack Grealish didn't work, they were just gonna accept a 50 million loss? Do you think that? Genuinely, do you think if Jack Grealish second year wasn't actually doing exactly what they bought him for, do you think they were gonna accept a 50 million loss for someone who's loved by the fans?
But it did.
Answer yes or no.
But it did work. So I
If-
don't understand the question.
That's the point. That's the point I'm arguing. It worked because you guys said it worked, and because Pep made it look like it worked. But if I'm watching,
Name one
when I'm
winger
watching it-
under Pep Guardiola at City who wasn't infinitely better in their second season than their first.
I don't know.
You can't.
I'll tell you
You
what.
can't.
I am not gonna name a
Pep
winger.
You can't name one, Mo. You can't.
I actually think that Jack Grealish, the fact that I think it didn't work, that Jack
Pep
Grealish
Guardiola-
completely. Oh my god,
If
Jack
Pep Guardiola
Grealish
makes
completely.
him
Can I
look
say
like
that
he can
statement,
work,
Tom? Can I say that
go
statement?
on, go on, go on.
Jack Grealish completely changed the way he plays from Aston Villa to Man City. That is a proof that Pep Guardiola, when you buy a player, do you actually buy the player thinking, I'm going to change the way this guy plays completely, which was successful at Aston Villa because he was actually the leader of Aston Villa. Paying 100 million for someone that I'm going to change the way they play, or that is more logically to say, I made it work because somehow it didn't work out. I made it look like it worked.
Right,
Which one
What do you
is
mean
more
What
logical?
do you mean it didn't work out?
Right, so
Don't
Mo,
get this.
There's a massively distinct difference between Aston Villa when Grealish played for them and Man City, and that is about 35% possession per game.
I like
So
this
all of a
argument.
sudden, Jack Grealish's skill set, which was being effective on the counter attack and winning fouls on the counter attack, is fucking negated when a team doesn't play on the counter attack like City. So do you think Pep Guardiola, the best manager of all time, is gonna sit there with all his experience and ignore the fact that Grealish plays for a counter-attacking team and won't be able to counter-attack when he joins City, who don't counter-attack as much? Is he just going to forget that little snippet of information? No.
No, but
He obviously knows what Grealish is about.
Did you think that Pep Guardiola thought that Calvin Phillips wouldn't work out when they bought him?
First of all, Pep didn't even want Phillips.
Okay, so I can argue that
Pep wanted
Why-
Grealish.
Okay, this is just an argument because I didn't think that you were paid. If I remember correctly, you were actually linked more to the Hurricane saga. Anyway, I know Nobins has to
Again,
go, guys.
co-signed both.
Stay on the bye. We're not going anywhere yet. We're gonna. I need to do super chats, but Nobins has to go to start the stream with LB. So big up Nobins for joining. Appreciate you. And by the way, before even you do anything, Nobins' channel is in the description. Nobin's channel is it's the first one in the description. Click on it, go subscribe.
Go watch
And
my Gvardiol analysis video.
Yes. I don't know why Nobins get upset every time here lately.
Mo, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, Sonny Jim lad. Because you make ridiculous statements, and then how else am I supposed? How do you want me to react? If you say things like a winger has only 2 jobs, how am I supposed to respond? Do you want me to just sit here and do nothing?
No, I actually want to respond.
If Rory
Actually,
says
I
to
like
me,
this.
Trossard and Grealish, there's no difference between the two, but I know that to be I know that to be objectively incorrect. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just sit there and go, you know what, Rory, great point. What am I supposed to do? You tell me.
Can I do one super chat for you before you go? So about that logic, Kai Havertz worked for Chelsea because he won the Champions League for them. Nobins. Did it work for them? The Kai Havertz scored the goal winner against Man City.
Well, Dan's a Chelsea fan. You can tell me.
That's not even the same comparison. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's not what we're saying about Jack Grealish at all. Like, Jack Grealish absolutely has worked in a longer period of time. Kai Havertz scored a goal in a game. It doesn't mean he absolutely worked at Chelsea. It's quite obvious that he was an absolute failure at Chelsea, and no one was able to identify the type of player Havertz was, whether that was coaches or sporting directors at Chelsea. Every single player, every single person got Havertz wrong at Chelsea. Arteta saw something in Havertz and has ultimately reaped the rewards of that this season.
Plus,
I
Arsenal
backed Havertz
squad.
to succeed.
Okay, Nobins have to go. Big up Nobins. I know you have to go.
Yeah.
If LB is not starting now, just let me know.
Big up Dan, by the way. Dan can come back. He's more rational than this fraudulent host. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't know why you get upset when we're debating something. I can be wrong. You can be wrong.
I'm going to take umbrage with you saying I'm getting upset. I'm responding to you and giving you a rational counterpoint.
I love it, and I love debating with you. It's absolutely all.
If I was like screaming and shouting and crying, then I'd accept I was being upset. But it's not like I'm going, Mo, you're an idiot and I hate you. You're an idiot and I hate you. I've gone, well, no, that's not true.
He's just going to say that after the group chat.
You could have said that, and the debate would have been better.
Oh no, I say it in the group chat, obviously, but
Yes,
I don't say it on camera because that would be unprofessional.
Kind of. It's just
right. I'm off now, guys. Dan, you keep defending Grealish for me, mate.
All right, in a bit.
A couple of super chats to do before we leave, guys. Let me just fix this and have 4. And Tom, your head is always down, so I'm gonna move Dan here. So under the super chats, his head is there. Thank you, Sidi. You got your answer, Sidi, and you got your answer from a Chelsea fan. Though, let me do this. Ahmed is saying Pep wanted Maguire, Kane, Rice, but they were all deemed as too much. But they thought Grealish was worth the money, so clearly they valued his profile.
Spot on.
Okay, Ahmed. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Great super chat. Maybe I actually think that goes against. Okay, so hold on. Same Dan that said spot on is the one that said you can't argue the price because it was a release clause. Said that was spot on.
No, they value the players, so that they don't care how much he costs.
Do you think that's how transfers work?
No, I don't think they did. I think they felt like with Maguire, with Harry Kane, that they could find someone who could do the role to a similar level. I don't think they felt like they could find someone to do the exact thing they needed Jack Grealish to do. And
so
sometimes
can I ask one question, Rory? One question. If that's the case, why didn't he play the first season? If they would have spent 100 million for a player and they were like, I identified this guy, the way he plays, and he's gonna come in and we're gonna play this way. Why didn't he work out first season? Can someone explain that?
He only played 10 less games in his first season than he did last season.
But it didn't work out. Everyone called him up. You think it worked out? Okay, so you think
he wasn't successful in his first season. But there is a notorious trend with Pep Guardiola signings where some need longer to adapt than others.
Okay,
that's a trend across his career.
Adapt means change your game a little bit from how you play.
No, there's a reason that Pep Guardiola is so successful. It's because he's doing something that no one else is doing, right? And that's why he's reaping these rewards. That's why he's been at the top of the game for so long, because he is constantly progressing and evolving and doing stuff on the training pitch
100%. I agree with you.
Other managers aren't doing. So when you rock up from, like, I think it was maybe Steven Gerrard to Pep Guardiola, like the difference, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was.
It was Dean Smith.
Dean Smith. That's it, right? So when you go from Dean Smith to Pep Guardiola, there are massive differences, massive asks, massive changes in probably every day at training, the way the clubs ran, the way everything is going to be different compared to what Dean Smith is doing. So I think the adapting takes so much longer. And sometimes for some players, it can be a little bit quicker. And for other players, it can take a lot longer. And I think a lot of that first season is to do with that. There was also players in his way that Pep was probably giving a chance to. Raheem Sterling was still occupying that position, probably in a transition as well in terms of how they were changing the style of football they were playing as well. So I think the issue there is that you have to remember that you can't just adapt straight away when you're coming into something that's so alien to you, which I think is a lot of the issues when players are moving to a Pep Guardiola side. Hence why it normally takes players a little bit of time to adapt to that system. If someone comes into a Pep Guardiola side and works straight away, you know that they've absolutely nailed on the understanding that they have from what Pep Guardiola's Arsenal.
Kovacic worked out. I think Doku. I can say that Doku was a successful.
Yeah, but
Doku's not being.
What?
Doku's been far from.
Well, Doku
For half the price. You don't think he offered in this first season way more than what Jack
Doku,
Grealish offered? Put the statement out for Tom going crazy. Sorry, then. You don't think Doku for half the price offered more in this first season than what Jack Grealish offered in the first season?
No.
Yes or no? No.
No.
Okay, go ahead then.
Because I could take away the entirety of if I take away Bournemouth from the Premier League, Doku has played 25 games this season, got 2 goals, 2 assists. If I take away one team in the Premier League,
now the winger
had a good game. He had a good game.
Now the winger is judged based on goals and assists. When it's
because that was your big point with Doku. That was your big point with Doku.
No,
I think you have to look
creation and
Mo, what you have to do is understand that someone who is a winger by trade, right? They can have different roles and different expectations of what they're asked to do. Someone like Trossard has been signed to provide Arsenal goals. There's no doubt about that. That's how he is as a player, right? And that's what he's done. He was doing that at Brighton. He's doing that again at Arsenal. Now, if you look at a player like Jack Grealish, he is doing in a role that I think he's been asked to do. I don't think Jack Grealish was ever signed to be the answer to Man City's goals and assists. I just don't think that's what they thought. The thing I'll say, though, is with Grealish, I think they solved one problem but opened another. That they, by putting Grealish into their team, they lost pace in areas where they previously had it. Hence why I feel like in some games, they've looked at it and gone, we didn't have pace here that was dangerous. We need to go out and sign someone that offered what Leroy Sané offered, Mahrez offered, even Sterling offered, right? And that's why I think they identified Doku as that person that is probably going to be happy to sit on the bench, happy to be key to winning some games because his style is essential in a certain type of game, which I think showed extremely well against that Bournemouth side. But then in every other game, like it might be that they turn to Grealish or they turn to Gvardiol. You have to understand that although they're all wingers or they're all centre midfielders or they're all strikers, people are allowed to occupy different roles and do different things, right? Like you said earlier, Firmino might have played as a false 9, but then Messi played as a false 9 and they've done different things in their career in that same role. That does happen. Cole Palmer's played the false 9 this season. He was doing a different role to what Firmino was doing. So although they're occupying a similar position when you look at the formation and the area of the pitch that they might be being asked to carry out a different role. And that is what is essential to remember when you're judging a player on what they're doing. Like, it's harsh to judge a player on goals and assists when that's not what they're being asked to do by their manager.
I don't judge him only on goals and assists, but every time I'm watching Jack Grealish, he is literally pop.
What do you mean by pop?
Which is like he goes like this. And then
so if Grealish was playing DM, it would be more acceptable because it's what we're more used to from seeing in a DM. Someone who's able to get on the ball, not lose the ball, pop it round a little bit. But because we're seeing it on the left, it's a little bit alien to everyone, and everyone expects, with the recent surge of
we're really redefining the rules to suit Jack Grealish. But anyway,
no one's.
Can I do the super chats and then Jack Grealish? I don't know why. To be honest with you guys, I don't know why Jack Grealish is defended. I think because he's a nice guy.
It's because City
can do no wrong.
They're just held to a different standard. That's the difference. And it's reverse engineering, right? Now people look at it and they go, oh, so because Jack Grealish, his stats are really high up in the percentages for this, that must have been why they bought him. But if you could look at Anthony at Man United, right? The number of final third possession recoveries he makes, off the charts. You could look at that. If you dropped him into the City team and he was doing that, people go, oh, they must have signed Anthony to do that because he's really high up on that stat. So that must have been why they bought him. Oh, it was the vision from Pep. No, you bought Anthony for 80 million. This is what people do. They reverse engineer it because they won the treble. And I get that. They won the treble, so fair enough. Everyone must have been perfect. I just think the argument is if you had signed a Trossard for 28 million, given him a year under Pep Guardiola, I think he would be offering the same, if not more, than Jack Grealish.
But not in certain areas, Rory. If you're asking him to score goals, then yes, I'd agree with you on that.
But even in terms of carrying the ball...
But that's the thing, guys. I don't think Jack Grealish does anything exceptional at all, then that's not our point. That's what drives me crazy sometimes. I actually don't see Jack Grealish doing anything exceptional at football.
I think that's the point, right?
At all.
He's
carrying the ball in a Man City team and passing it back is something that Pep Guardiola can teach to a donkey. And the donkey would do that.
I don't think that's fair. I think there are times, obviously, when Jack Grealish will keep possession because that's what he feels is the safest thing to do. I'll agree with you, by the way, that I think there is an element of risk that has been removed from Grealish's game since he signed for Manchester City. I think at Aston Villa, he took a few more risks. I would agree with that. What I will say, though, is that I don't think you can compare Trossard to a Jack Grealish apart from the area of the pitch that they might occupy.
Then you don't think Trossard has the technical capabilities to keep the ball, shield it, and then pass it back to Rodri or whoever is coming? You guys don't think that is something that Leandro Trossard can do? You don't think so? If he's instructed to do that, you don't think that Leandro Trossard can spend the whole season, every time the ball is passed to him, he shields it and pass it back. And we know that Manchester City are the best, because it's Pep Guardiola, the best team in the history of the sport to create angles for your teammates and find the free man. This is basically Pep Guardiola's philosophy, is to have someone free all game. So we don't think that Leandro Trossard or anyone, any decent winger in the league, is asked to not take risks and keep the ball and pass it back to the free man. Can do that. What is so special about this? I don't know.
Who said this job's not to take risks?
Well, if it is to take risks, he doesn't do it, so he's not doing his job.
No, it's to correctly choose when to take risks. I wouldn't want a player who is incorrectly deciding when to take risks or not. To say Jack Grealish only passes backwards is disingenuous to what he is.
I agree.
Sure, some of his game is that, because that is recycling the ball and that is ensuring that City maintain control over games. But Grealish has also created a good number of chances. Grealish has also been in big games, in big moments, driving that team forwards. It's disingenuous to just suggest all he's there to do at City is run 10 yards and then pass it back to Rodri, because that's far from what he does. If that was all he was doing, then yes, I agree. City should have just bought 10 million quid winger, because that's all he has to do. But the fact they spent 100 million on Grealish, and the fact that Pep will not give up on Grealish and continues in the big moments to pick Grealish when he's fit, proves to me that it is more than just turn around, pass backwards.
But again, your assumption, and this is the thing, right? And I get it because he's won so much, but your assumption is that Pep is correct in doing that Pep is correct in not giving up on him. But at this point, we're 3 years into Jack Grealish at Man City, and he had one good season in the middle of that, which, again, the argument that we're putting forward is that there are many other players in world football that wouldn't cost 100 million that could do the same job. I mean, one of your arguments was basically that Jack Grealish is humble enough to know that he's not the best attacking player in the squad. Like, these aren't world-class traits. These aren't £100 million traits. These are what you would expect a high-level footballer to do.
Rory, there are traits there that are world-class from Jack Grealish, and he excels at and is one of the best players in his position in that role at doing what he does. And that's why he's been so integral to this Manchester City side. That's why Pep Guardiola is backing him. And I understand what you're saying, and I understand what Mo's saying as well, that if you wanted a player to come in and be purely there for ball retention and move 10 yards and pass the ball backwards, yes, you could ask probably even League Two wingers, like conference level players, to do that role. But that isn't what Jack Grealish is doing. Jack Grealish is doing more than that. There's more than that to his game. So
We
I don't think
don't
that's
see
a
it.
fair
I don't
argument.
see it, to be honest with you.
Then,
Dan.
Mo,
I
but
really don't see
the
it.
way you
And
spoke
I
about
played football, and I'm so I played football.
Mo, look, you don't have to play football to be able to understand what's going on the pitch. I'm not saying that as someone who has or hasn't played football. I'm just telling you, I've spoken to people who haven't played football. They have an exceptional understanding of what is happening on the pitch. And
Yes,
what
I
players
get
are
it. Of
being
course, there are a
asked
lot
to
of
do,
people.
right? And then there are
Yes.
people that have played football, and actually they don't have an exceptional understanding of what is happening on the pitch and tactics and what's being asked to do, what's being required of a certain type of player. What I will say is, though, is that if you are suggesting that a left winger either scores goals or assists, then that would tell me that you do need to spend a little bit more time looking at different left wingers and seeing what they do, or wingers in general, and seeing the different types of roles that they're asked to do. And then when you back that up with the type of stats that the Man City fan was talking about in what they do, you might understand a little bit more that what Jack Grealish is doing. What we need to do with Jack Grealish, though, is drop, not necessarily drop the price tag, because it's an excessive amount of money for any of us, and we can't quite comprehend the money that's spent on him, but understand that Manchester City have got exactly what they wanted from Jack Grealish and solved the issue that he was there, right? That they didn't have when he wasn't in the team. And still now, when Jack Grealish isn't in the team, they don't have a solution to that. Two
of the main things, and it's harsh now because he's not here. Two of the main stats Nobbin used were progressive carries into the final third and touches in the final third. Jeremy Doku has more than Jack Grealish in both of those stats. So the argument is you can bring in a Jeremy Doku and he can do and excel in the same thing as Jack Grealish because it's the same system that Jack Grealish.
Right. So Rory, I actually hear you on that, right? And I'm not getting onto that argument about Doku in terms of backing up the Jack Grealish one. Jack Grealish at a certain time was the solution to this issue, right? Is a good player. However, what I'll say is, like I said already, is that once you solve one problem, you kind of open up another. And I think the idea with Doku is, this is a player that can play on both sides, is faster than Jack Grealish, and with a little bit of coaching from Pep Guardiola, I think they've decided that a player like Doku could eventually do what Jack Grealish does and more. But right now, Doku is in the progression area that Jack Grealish was in his first season, right? And I think the idea is that Doku will eventually replace Jack Grealish, and I think Jack Grealish will leave Manchester City. Whether that's this season or not, I'm not sure. But right now, what Jack Grealish does, Doku can't quite do that yet. But I expect him to fulfill that role. I really do. I think that's the idea behind that.
All right. We need to do the super chats and then get out of here to send the people to LB and Nobbins. Zayn Shah is saying, Rory, is Havertz a flop signing as a number 9 because there are 12 players who have scored more goals than him? If you compare Havertz as a number 9, is he a flop?
If you compare Havertz as a 9, which he's played in 2024, only Cole Palmer has more goal and assists than Havertz as a 9. So, no.
Yeah, see, it's
He spent 2/3 of the season in midfield.
Zayn, you answered. Patrick, big up Patrick for super chat. Saying Doku isn't smart enough is a bad point, Tom. It's a bad point.
He doesn't make the correct decisions at the same level Grealish does, and his end product isn't as good as Grealish's is. That's how I look at it.
All right.
But he gets into more dangerous positions. He's just more wasteful.
I'm gonna answer you, Patrick. I think the problem is he takes risks, so he doesn't look like his decision making is right. But I know exactly that he's making the right decision by dribbling because Pep Guardiola likes that.
We're completing losing the ball with a bad decision, I think.
Yeah, bro. Man City fans say when and I'm gonna tell you this, wallahi. I was on shows here after games when I say Doku today was exciting, he created it, but he lost the ball too many times. You know how he lost the ball? He crossed and nobody got at the end of the cross. Bro, we are considering a cross now a loss of position. That's how.
If it's a shit cross, then yeah.
It wasn't a cross. Like when he whip it, when he whip it across, right, and nobody's there, they say he lost position. You know why? Because the stats show that he lost position, that the cross didn't go to somebody. Well, how many crosses people connect then lately? Nobody connects more than, like 30% of their crosses. Anyway, rivals can't deep Pep's game, so they judge naively.
But that's always the thing, right? You can't counter that because they did win the treble. It's one of those you can't counter it, but
Yeah.
The thing
that's
is,
the problem.
ultimately, I think Dan came actually back to my point anyway, because Dan said he thinks Doku will go on to be Jack Grealish and better in terms of offering what Jack Grealish does and doing more.
half the
which was my
price,
point.
younger, less experience.
Well, that was my point, right? You spend half the money and get a player that's as good as Jack Grealish and can add the attacking threat. That was my original point, almost in a nutshell.
Yeah, but
If
right
you're-
now, Rory, right now, they've spent half the money and haven't yet got that player. It's going to take a lot more work than what Jack Grealish ever took.
Yeah, maybe.
I
We'll see what he does next
by
season, but-
next season. If you are going to compare Grealish as a winger, let's compare Havertz and Richarlison. Richarlison has 4 less GA in 111 less minutes. One is considered a flop, and the other said to be a great signing.
Yeah, now consider that. Now change it to when Havertz was a 9, which we just explained. A
Wait,
third of
people
the.
still think Havertz is a flop. Is this discussion still happening? Because that's ludicrous if they do. Like Havertz hasn't flopped at all. He was just asked to play in a role that he'd never played in before in his life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can see why Arteta decided to try and play in there as well, but it hasn't quite worked out. Havertz just isn't a flop, though. I don't know why people are still going on about that. What Richarlison's been signed to do, he hasn't excelled at.
AMT, Man City won the treble because of these players to me. Gundogan, KDB, Rodri, and Haaland. Very true. It's not because of Jack Grealish and John Stones and Akanji and Diaz. Right? Not because of Jack Grealish. He's the least important player, and that's my opinion. Dana disagrees, Tom disagrees, nobody disagrees, but let's agree to disagree.
I don't know if I'd say he's the most important player.
He's the least important.
Well, I don't think he's that.
Can you
either.
name, Dan, let me and you go through the players. Which one, if I'm going to ask you from the most important to the least important in that City team, right, on the treble winning team, which one, can we name them, the most important one? Can we start with number 1? It's a very good
Rodri.
game. I love this good game. Rodri won.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out a name and you tell me is the second or not. You can disagree or disagree. Haaland.
No.
Can we put him third?
No.
Kevin De Bruyne second.
Yeah, probably KDB.
Haaland third? Is anybody going to
No.
get that amount of goal? No, somebody else would have gotten that amount of goal.
No, I'm not. I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that you could replace Haaland easier in terms of the numbers that the goals he scored in that Manchester City team because of the amount of chances that were created.
Okay, so who's third then? Stones in that inverted DM role? That was
I'd
ridiculous.
probably say Ederson. I think what Ederson offers to this Manchester
Gundogan?
City is exceptional.
Gundogan?
I'd then probably say Gundogan, yeah, very clutch in certain moments.
Bernardo Silva, that magnificent Bernardo Silva 5. Diaz in the defense last season, no?
Yes and no. I think you could probably sign a player or replace a player like Diaz and carry through with another centre back as well.
So who else? Who was on the right side? Kanji, Kyle Walker, Ake.
That's the point you're getting at, though. When you're saying that 3 people played in one role, not one of them is really the ultra important guy.
No, but they actually had a starting lineup back there of Stones, Akanji or Walker, and Ake left back. That was the starting lineup.
So wait, what names have we listed already? Rodri,
we
Kevin
listed Rodri, Kevin. We haven't listed Haaland yet, huh? The one that
no,
scored
that's
50
fine.
goals.
Ederson.
Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, and Bernardo Silva.
Okay, and then Jack Grealish.
6. So you think Jack Grealish is more important than Haaland?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So we reached.
Mo, I'll tell you why. Because you can sign a striker that would score 35 goals last season. Manchester City still win the treble because they'd replace those goals from somewhere else on their team. Or you could sign a player that gets 40 goals last season if it isn't as good as Haaland to get 50 goals, right? You could still win the treble with that because they were winning games 4-0. They could win a game 2-0 and win the treble. Do you see what I mean by that?
Yeah. Okay, so we reached the 6th player. Okay. Mansour is saying, go get them, Mo. Birthday boy. Thank you. It's not my birthday yet, but thank you, Mansour. Appreciate it. Appreciate you so much, Mansour. Winter Surfer here with a spot on super chat. Mo, you have found 2 topics to make your rational panel irrational. Palmer for player of the season, and when you dare to criticize the great Jack Grealish. That's absolutely spot on, Andrew. Spot on, Andrew. And CD here is saying Hazard that Real Madrid got much more hate for the same output as Jack Grealish, but Real Madrid didn't. CD. So the answer to this, they didn't win a triple though. If Hazard started and they won a triple, I don't think he gets so much criticism. And his final thought is Jack Grealish is not a 100 million player, and that is it. That is spot on.
Declan Rice.
Yeah, but do you not think, right? By the way, this is just on chat going crazy about what I've just said about Haaland there. Do you not think if they'd signed Harry Kane, they could still have won the treble? Like, Haaland isn't that important that they
Okay,
could.
but Harry Kane. Okay, it's not like we aren't. Okay, so it's like you saying we replace Jack Grealish with Vinny Jr. and they win the triple. I can say the
because
same.
let's be real.
But Harry Kane is a better player than
Haaland.
Haaland.
Yeah,
No. Can I ask you something? Okay, let
Go
me
on,
ask
go
you.
on.
Let me ask you the right question then. Do you think if they signed Solanke instead of Haaland, they would have won the triple? That is the right comparison.
Off of this season's evidence,
Yes. Okay. Or even
I
off
think
this
Treble
season.
would
evidence.
get winning evidence.
35 goals in this season for Manchester City.
Okay. Okay. So your answer is yes. If they signed Solanke instead of Haaland last season, they would have won the triple.
No,
That is
not
your
last season, because I don't think Solanke was ready to go and perform in the side last
Okay.
season.
If they have signed Ollie Watkins last season, they would have won. the
No,
triple.
no, I'm not. Look, I'm not backing Watkins. I don't see a player there that could do
Okay.
that job.
If they signed Jackson, they would have won the triple.
No.
I'm going through the list of strikers, by the way, in the league. By the way,
Right.
do you think
Okay.
if they have signed Havertz, they would have won the triple as a striker?
No.
Okay, that's the point. Let me ask Rory the other way around. Rory, do you think if they signed Trossard, they would have won the triple?
Yes.
Do you think if they signed Kudus, they would have won the triple?
Yes.
Okay, do you think if they signed Martinelli, they would have won the triple?
Yes.
Okay, who else is a winger in the league? I'm trying to go. Do you think if they signed, for example, I don't know who else is a left winger in the league. Can someone name others?
Anthony Gordon.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm more interested. Do you
Louis
think
Diaz.
But the point is,
do not mention
I
Justin
went
Booty's
through
fucking
players.
shit.
I went through players that
hold
are
on,
good
Mo.
this
Mo.
season. This is the same argument,
Mo,
people,
Mo,
that
Mo,
I'm
Mo, Mo.
making.
Let me
I
ask
asked
this.
Dan, who said replace Haaland, they win the triple,
Let me ask
and he
Dan
said
this.
no.
Let me ask Dan this. Do you think if City didn't sign Haaland and just had Alvarez as the striker last year, do they win the treble?
Dan,
Potentially.
So Alvarez is kind of the base level of striker that could get them over the line in a treble. And
Yeah,
that's
look,
like
we've got.
KDB get
There's
more.
got to be a level of quality in the striker or an understanding of what they're being asked to do.
you
Haaland
guys
is the
think that Julian
absolute
Alvarez is a
level
better
of an
striker than
exceptional
Watkins?
like player who in the box challenged and won every
I
duel
never
that he
said
pretty
that.
much had in that area.
Okay, and now I'm asking Dan, do you think Julian Alvarez is a striker is better than Ollie Watkins as a striker?
Not probably not this season. But look, Ollie Watkins for me, I'm just kind of I'm giving that time. Maybe that's my own personal opinion on him, but I'm just.
So,
kind
by the
of
way,
Let me ask
can
you guys the
can I think-
ultimate. I want to ask
hang on,
the
let me get round
ultimate
to-
question here. The
No,
ultimate question.
Hang on.
Do you
could-
guys think if they signed Isak, they would have scored the same amount of goal and won a treble?
No, he'd be injured.
Okay, if
Can I-
Isak stayed
can I-
fit, go ahead, Rory. Last
Okay,
point.
so
because I
because-
need to send the people to LB.
Because, right, Nobbins, when Haaland, we're saying, okay, anyone could have reproduced the goals that Erling Haaland scored because they get all the chances. But when Erling Haaland wasn't scoring goals this season, Nobbins said that the other work that Haaland does in terms of drawing players around him, in terms of winning the ball, all of that stuff, that was what Haaland was elite at and that no other striker could do. So
No.
we're not just looking at reproducing his goals, we're looking at reproducing the all-round game that Nobbins in particular was adamant that Haaland has as well. So there's
I raise my hand and I say, if Haaland wasn't there, they don't win the Champions League and they don't win the league last season. Arsenal win. The
I
league.
agree.
I'm
Just
going to say it
Haaland
again.
on his own.
What
You-
Haaland did for them
striker
last
who's
season
able to score
is
30 goals,
absolutely out of
20
this
goals.
world, and he deserves the Ballon d'Or.
The thing is, I feel like we're mad. There's like an unbelievable level of disrespect to Haaland that's basically only being used as a way of not disrespecting Jack Grealish.
Thank
It's
you
like being
so
used to
much.
protect Jack Grealish.
saying.
Thank you so much.
me in this post.
Can we let me do the super chat and then finish here. Is oh my god, is my dad saying Mohan Husam called Doku Beetlejuice and slated because no end product, and now because he turned it around 100%. I'm allowed to do that.
How has he turned around the end product?
I actually think he has been very good in the last 2 months. Every time he came on, he has turned it around. I think he turned it around. I think the reason why he kept him on the bench, he taught him a lot of stuff. And he's, by the way, we are actually comparing a 21 years old that played in the Belgium league to a superstar from Aston Villa that is 26 years old or 27 years
No,
old.
he's in France. He was playing for.
He
Lille.
played in France. Okay.
Huh?
Doku 4 GA in the league,
Friends.
and at fault are given 3 goals. So net he has contributing to 1 goal, whereas Jack Grealish 3 goals, and at fault to 0 goals, net 3 GAs.
Damn, 150 million for 4 GAs. Net.
Amazing, fantastic.
Hold on. I need to go back to the other point. Mo, if you
I need
say
to finish, Tom. Okay, can you be quick? I'm disrespecting LB and Nobbins here.
If you say Doku has improved on his end product in the last 2 months, since the turn of the new year, he's got 2 goals. That's it.
By the way, huh?
He's got 2 goals since the turn of the new year. Doku.
Okay, the point is,
So where's
what
the
he
improvement in end
I'm
product?
gonna tell you, the fact that he is the one who takes risks makes a lot of difference for me as a winger. And I said that many times.
That wasn't the point. The point was.
By the way, that was always my point. Always my point.
The super chat said.
Always my
because
point from the beginning of my argument.
Super chat said end product, and then you said
always my point. I don't. Okay. I actually always have been my point. I said he takes risks and he actually cause terrorizing the other team. That's it. Anyway, guys, this will take you to LB. And if you are with us, just type this. Just type this. I'm gonna type it in the chat. I don't know if I typed it right or wrong, to be honest. Overrated. I typed it wrong, probably. Overrated. If you are not with me, type Grealish is amazing. That's it. If you want to rattle Nobbins and LB, just type that in the chat, copy and paste. And if not, you can type Grealish is amazing. It's up to you to do. Bigger people, and we'll see you guys next episode. Thank you, guys.